Gentlemen, Murder is Served, by Derek Wilson with Peter Jeffrey as Hector Porteous and Christopher Ettridge as Inspector Taylor. In the fin de siècle Paris of 1887, a philanderer called Henri Panzini was executed for a series of brutal murders. But was he guilty?
For our play today, we visit Paris in the year 1895, where, amid the glamour of life in the naughty 90s, gentlemen, murder is served.
Well, I still think it sounds pretty tame. Spending the evening with a grey-beard professor isn't my idea of fun. Yeah, anyway, what's an Englishman like him doing living here?
Just wait till you meet him, Charles. You'll find him capital company. Here's a fund of stories. You said you wanted me to show you the real Paris? Well, no one knows it better than Hector Porteous. As to why he lives here, well, he likes Paris. And Paris likes him. He is probably the finest anatomist in Europe. The university was lucky to get hold of him.
Well, all right. You've always got your own way ever since we were children. All I ask is that we go on to somewhere interesting afterwards.
Oh.
Damn it, Philip. I've been stuck with the army in South Africa for 3 years, surrounded by ignorant Kaffirs and stubborn Boers. Do you know what kept me going amidst the heat and dust and flies on the veldt? It was the thought of having a really good time in Paris with my old friend and cousin, Philip Delamain. And by good time, I mean what every red-blooded Englishman means. Wine, woman, and song.
Yes, well, I just thought you might like a change this evening. Something different. You'll like old Porteous, I promise you. His anatomy lectures at the Sorbonne were always hilarious. Hilarious and sometimes sinister.
Sinister?
Yeah. He was for many years a police advisor on forensic medicine. Some of the tales he told, well... Anyway, you'll get a good dinner out of it. Le Grand Véfour is one of the best restaurants in Paris, and that means one of the best in the world.
Yeah. You know what I think about Frenchified food?
You just be on your best behaviour. Right, here we are. Merci, monsieur. Non, tenez, ça va.
Merci, monsieur.
After you, Giles.
Bonjour, monsieur. Vous avez une réservation?
Oui, Captain Danvers et Dr. Delamain. Nous avons rendez-vous avec le professeur Porteous.
Ah, bien entendu. Monsieur le professeur est déjà ici.
Ah.
Suivez-moi, s'il vous plaît.
Oui, merci.
Philip, how wonderful to see you again. Oh, I was so pleased to receive your letter.
Professor, how are you? Allow me to present my cousin, Captain Giles Danvers of Her Majesty's 4th Dragoon Guards.
Enchanté, Captain Danvers.
How do you do, sir?
Well, sit down, sit down. Tell me your news, Philip. How many patients have you killed since you qualified?
Not nearly as many as I would if I'd followed your recommendation to become a surgeon.
Well, I always told you were a professional licensed murderer. Well, what else could I do? I opened him up again and put him back. Here's George. He's a first-class head waiter. You just watch him, Captain Danvers. Runs this place like an army brigade.
Monsieur le professeur, vous êtes prêt?
Oui, George, très affamé. I hope you don't mind. I've taken the liberty of ordering our meal because I wanted you to enjoy the very best food and wine Paris could offer. I hope you approve my choice. Eh bien, George, j'espère qu'ils sont frais.
Bon, naturellement, professeur, nous marchons ce matin.
Yes. Gentlemen, I could not let you leave Paris without tasting one of our great delicacies. Now, watch carefully. George removes the cover, and voila. Escargot farci varié.
God, they look like...
Like snails, Giles? That's exactly what they are.
Good God! I know the frogs eat some damn queer things, but snails? Ugh. No wonder the French are such useless soldiers. They all had their guts rotted from the inside.
Well, Captain Danvers, Philip told me you wanted to steep yourself in all the pleasures of Paris. Well, for a real Frenchman, the delights of the table surpass even those of the bedroom, eh? And don't worry, the snails have been washed in brine to get rid of the slime. Well, try them. You'll be surprised. Each one is individually farci, it's such a better word than our English stuffed, with a different filling, flavoured with roquefort, fennel, garlic, various spices. Oh, and the wine I know you'll enjoy. It's a Condrieu from Dauphiny, with all the colour and sparkle of rippling sunlight on the Rhone.
Ah. Professor, are you still advisor in forensic medicine to the Sûreté?
Yes, but I'm not so involved as I used to be. There don't seem to be the really interesting cases these days. Now for you. Philip, did I ever tell you about the murders in Rue Montaigne?
No. But I know that look in your eye. You've come prepared to tell us, haven't you?
Well, I just happen to have the notes of the affair here in this special case.
What an extraordinary note case. Odd colour. Covered in vellum, is it?
Yeah, I'll come to that in due course. It was for me a particularly interesting affair because I was involved in it from the very beginning. Even before the beginning. Right to the very end. And perhaps even beyond the end. That's why I've kept all these jottings and photographs and press cuttings and this remarkable note case. It is the story of a very beautiful woman. Beautiful and sad. Now picture to yourself, gentlemen. A lady just past her first youth, but now possessing that hauteur, that self-assurance of manner that most men find quite irresistible. A woman of slender build, with green eyes and glistening gold hair, immaculately coiffed. A woman whose defiant tilt of the head and penetrating gaze mark her as a creature of spirit who has triumphed over many of life's little sadnesses. Well, you could see in your mind's eye such a woman. Then you see Regine de Monte. That day in March 1887, when I observed her phaeton rushing along the Bois de Boulogne, I knew it was her, long before I was close enough to distinguish the face beneath her veil. A single lady, elegant, her carriage open despite the bitter cold, driving with such speed, style, grace. Oh, it could only be she. I doffed my hat. Instead of passing, Madame de Monte reined in suddenly.
Dr. Porteous!
At your service, madame.
Are you on your way to a patient?
It is only my own health that brings me to the Bois today.
Then you shall spend a moment or two with someone who needs your ministrations. Come up into the carriage and sit with me a while.
When beauty commands, age must obey.
This is very kind. Here, the rug for your legs.
Oh, thank you. Now, what's this about needing my humble services? I fear I shall diagnose hypochondria. I never saw you looking more radiant, madame.
Hop. Hercules. Leander, hop.
For several minutes she made no reply. He had left the Avenue du Bois, crossed the Place de l'Étoile, and entered the Avenue des Champs-Élysées before she uttered another long sigh.
Oh, Dr. Porteous, I am so unhappy I wish I were dead.
My poor child, what's the matter?
I cannot. But yes, I must tell someone. My dear friend, I can trust your discretion.
Of course.
3 weeks ago, my lover, Paul Saint-Genier, left me to get married.
Oh, that is very sad. But to wish for death, no.
But I loved him passionately. I still do. He's the only one I care for. Oh, Dr. Porteous, what am I to do?
Oh, why distract yourself? You have other men.
Only 2 that matter. Young Renier, he is sweet. He pays for the apartment. And your friend Lagrange.
What? Old Pascal? The lucky old goat.
He is kind and understanding. He gives me 1,000 francs a month. There are 2 or 3 more, but they are just business.
Are you saying that this Madame de Monte was a common...
My friend, whatever Regine de Monte was, she was not common. Ah, but I must pause. Here's our next course. Now, this is a light dish of goose livers and cep, but that is wild mushrooms, and a piquant salad. And we shall have with it a fresh little wine from Anjou. Merci, Georges. Where was I? Ah, yes, Madame de Monte. Well, her origins were humble, certainly. The daughter of a small-town official, seduced at 17 by a local farmer who discarded her after a year. Disowned by her family, she made a living with the only gift nature had bestowed generously upon her, her beauty. Little Regine passed from man to man, but never did she give herself dishonourably. She chose her friends with care. One of her liaisons was with a certain Chevalier de Monte. She took his name and kept it after the affair had ended.
She managed to avoid getting herself pregnant.
Well, such ladies are well versed in various stratagems. But certainly, when she arrived in Paris, some 3 years before the events I'm describing, she had with her a maid, Annette Rémeret, and a little girl of 5 years, Marie. The child was supposed to be Annette, the result of an affair with a coachman, but... Captain Danvers, you're not enjoying your foie d'huile?
The damn things are raw.
No. They're marinated in wine and herbs, and then sautéed ever so lightly in oil with the mushrooms. But you must not probe it so delicately with your knife. We're not in the operating theatre. Look, my friend, like this. A little liver, a little mushroom on the fork, and some crisp endive. Rub it well in the oil, and voila. Superb. That's the way to appreciate all the textures and flavours. You try it. That's right. You know, Philip, this is a favourite dish of old Lamartine, the professor of obstetrics. He says it gives him a sensation which must be like eating newborn babies.
Giles, my poor chap. You need a good thump on the back.
Oh, that's enough. Sorry. Must have gone down the wrong way.
Drink some more wine.
Georges?
Monsieur?
Encore une bouteille de saumure?
Oui, monsieur.
To go back to your story, Professor, this distressed woman, I suppose she wanted you to prescribe opium or morphine.
No, it's what I suspected, of course, but she was adamant in rejecting any such idea.
Drugs. I have no use for them. Absinthe, occasionally. Or some other distraction.
What distraction?
Why, anything new, different, diverting. The nights are the worst time after my regular lovers have gone. What if I'd met some strange man or even woman to help me endure the dark hours?
Well, this is folly, my dear child. You must know the risk you run. Thieves, violent men. You've heard about these terrible murders of the last few months. 4 women brutally done to death.
Risk? But that puts interest, excitement back into life. Hercules, Leander,
Madame, you'll have us over. Please, if you care nothing for your own life, I implore you, think of mine. Whoa. Oh, I'm obliged.
Oh, Dr. Porteous, what shall I do? I'm so wretched.
There, my poor child. Here, dry your eyes. I'll tell you what your old friend Hector prescribes. A rest. Change of air. Go to Cannes or Nice or Monte Carlo for a few weeks. If you need something to help you sleep, I'll give you a prescription for some bromide of laudanum.
I suppose you are right. Perhaps I will take a little holiday. No drugs. At least, not for the present. But please, will you come and see me at the weekend? Saturday afternoon?
With the greatest of pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh, I feel better already. Just talking to you is a cure in itself. Now, let me drive you home.
No. Thank you. No, it's not far, and the walk, is good for the circulation. Au revoir, madame.
Until Saturday, dear Dr. Porteous. Hercules, Leander, up!
Poor woman.
Poor indeed. Not materially, of course. In fact, she was very prosperous. Her admirers showered her with gifts. She had some splendid jewelry. And she was very careful with money. But she had come to a point in life where she felt she had nothing. No one she really loved, no close friends, nothing to dedicate her life to. Very sad. Ah, well, here's George with something special for us. Merci, George. You are a fisherman, Captain Danvers?
Yes, I do a bit on the family's place in Gloucestershire and sometimes with friends in Scotland.
Well, here's a dish you'll really enjoy. Truite au vin d'Arbois. The trout is cooked in a vin rosé from Franche-Comté and served with a rich cream sauce. And to accompany it, a fine Montrachet, indubitably the best white wine in the world.
The fish looks excellent. It smells quite delicious. Don't you think so, Giles?
Yes, if you like fancy food. For me, a trout is a trout. I like to see what I'm eating. I don't care for these effeminate sauces.
But, Captain Danvers, surely you
Professor,
would...
Professor, tell us what happened the next time you saw Madame de Monte.
Ah, alas, I never saw her again. At least, not alive. 3 days after our meeting in the Bois, I was roughly awakened by my manservant.
Professor! Professor!
Whatever is it, Pierre? What's the matter?
You must get dressed quickly, Professor. The police are here.
I was, of course, quite used to being summoned urgently by the police to examine the bodies of people who have died in suspicious circumstances. Wretches fished out of the Seine, footpad victims, that sort of thing. So I was soon ready and went with the gendarme who had been sent by cab to fetch me. Only when the driver turned into the Rue Montaigne and stopped outside number 17 was I filled with a terrible foreboding. It was the building where Regine de Monte had her apartment. We pushed through the little crowd and climbed to the second floor. At the door of the flat, I was met by Inspector Tailleur of the Sûreté.
Morning, Porteous. Afraid it's a very nasty one. Same pattern as the other 4 women, but... well, come and see.
Nasty was hardly the word for it. At the far end of the narrow passageway, by the door of Regine de Monte's bedroom, lay a woman's crumpled body. Blood spattered the walls and lay in a large congealed pool on the green carpet. The poor creature was wearing a petticoat. Her nightcap lay on the floor beside her. I knelt by the corpse.
Well, Professor, what can you tell us?
This is Annette Greveret, the maid.
You knew her?
Madame de Monte is a patient of mine.
Was a patient.
She, too?
I'm afraid so. You'll see in a moment. For the present, we're concerned with the manner of Mademoiselle Gremeret's death.
Very well. Help me to turn her onto her back, will you? That's right. Ah, now we can see the fatal wound there across the throat. Very clean cut. Note the expression on the face.
It's perfectly tranquil to me.
Precisely. No bulging eyes, no opening of the mouth to scream, no contortion of the features. The poor woman was taken completely by surprise. From the position of the cut, I'd say she was expertly dispatched. Hair grabbed from behind with the left hand, throat slit with the other. Identical to the Agathon and Stein murders.
Yet there are slashes here on the shoulders.
Yes, but these were made after the fatal blow. I mean, he must have been agitated, excited to inflict these unnecessary wounds. Yet he had the presence of mind to dispatch his victim cleanly, clinically.
I don't wonder he was keyed up. Come through here, Porteous. Into the bedroom.
My God.
Ghastly, isn't it? I don't mind admitting I've never seen anything worse.
The elegant chamber where Regine de Monte had exercised her not inconsiderable talents was a shambles. The purple damask hangings over the rosewood bed were torn, wardrobe doors gaped open, drawers had been pulled out and their contents scattered. There were splashes of blood over the crumpled sheets and the wall. Had the room not had a scarlet carpet, the profuse emission of blood would have been even more apparent. But nothing could conceal the smell of carnage, not even the fragrance of Regine's perfume which still pervaded the air. As for the wretched woman herself, she lay on her side, at the foot of the bed, her hands stretched out towards the wall. I stood for some moments in the doorway, stunned by the horror of the scene. But there was work to be done, as the efficient Inspector Tailleur pointed out.
Well, come along, Porteous. I want all you can tell me about this dreadful business. We have to find some way to put a stop to these crimes.
Of course. Yeah, well, you'll observe that the fatal blow is identical to the one which killed the maid.
There seems to have been a struggle.
Oh, yes. Poor Madame de Monte did not die with merciful suddenness. There's a wound here across her left shoulder which has penetrated to the bone. The gash across her neck is very deep, and the chain she was wearing is crushed into it.
See over here, Porteous. There's blood on the pillow and on the wall beside the bed by the bell rope.
Hmm? Oh, yes. Yes, and look at the rope. It's almost detached at the top. Not very difficult to reconstruct the crime. The lady's attacked as she gets out of bed. Her first instinct is to summon aid. She grabs the bell pull. Her assailant grabbed her to try and stop her raising the alarm, drags her to the foot of the bed. And there, despite her struggles and screams, he manages to inflict the fatal wound. By now, Annette Wevray, aroused by the violent ringing of the bell, is knocking at the door. The murderer is flustered, close to panic, but he has the presence of mind to step across the room and flatten himself against the wall beside the door. As soon as the maid opens it, before she has time to step across the threshold, he seizes her by the hair and cuts her throat. The body naturally convulses in its death spasms. He fears she is still alive. He strikes her again and again.
Thank you, Porteous. Very graphic. But is there anything that tells us more about the kind of man we're looking for?
Well, all these wounds suggest a sharp knife with a long blade. Something like a butcher's knife or a carving knife. As to the assassin, obviously strong, and I'd say he knew exactly what he was doing. There are no stab wounds on the bodies. He wields his weapon expertly, like a butcher. It all confirms what we already know. We're dealing with a calculating, ruthless killer. Insane, certainly, but the cunning of the devil himself.
You haven't seen the worst yet. Come with me. Here, at the end of the passage, is the room shared by the maid with her daughter Marie. Prepare yourself for another shock, Porteous.
He flung open the door and...
Not the little girl as well.
The child Marie lay huddled up in the middle of the large bed she shared with the maid. Her head was severed almost completely from the body. It remained attached by a mere shred of skin. Her right arm, which she instinctively raised to protect herself, was deeply gashed in several places.
How ghastly.
Oh, indeed. But then man is but animal when we've removed the wrappings we call civilization. Captain Danvers, I think you've seen that often enough. These South African atrocities we read about.
Exaggerations. Anti-British propaganda. The truth is that damn Boers train their women and children to attack our troops. Every farmhouse is a potential source of danger. Well, it's not our fault if we have to round them up to keep them out of mischief.
I suppose you're right. Doubtless the stories of hundreds of women and children dying in the camps are exaggerated. We civilized British would never permit such a thing.
Monsieur le professeur Roquier, vous permettez...
Ah, my friends, our next course. Oui, Georges, vous le pouvez servir. Et le vin.
C'est ici, monsieur. Le sommelier va vous le présenter.
Merci. Oh, gentlemen, I have the great honor to present to you a king among wines. His Majesty Chateau Lafite 1864. Oh, there could be nothing finer to accompany our beef.
Aha, beef, eh?
Yes, bœuf rôti à la Baudelaise. It is marinated in wine, oil, and herbs, and served with reduced juices and marinade as a sauce. But while George is carving, I thought you'd be interested to see the police photographs taken at the scene of the murder. This is what we found in Madame de Monte's bedroom. And here's poor little Marie. Even at a distance, you can see the head lying quite unnaturally in relation to the body. And here's a close-up photograph, which is really very good. It'll interest you especially, Philip. You see there, the spinal vertebrae completely severed. Yes. Captain Danvers, please let George help you to more meat than that. The roasting chef here is the best in Paris. I mean, just look at this loin, crisp on the outside, but at the centre, bright pink and still moist with blood.
Thank you. I have enough.
Oh, no, I insist. Georges, plus de viande pour monsieur.
Remarkable photographs. These modern techniques must be a great help in police work. But you say that this was part of a series of murders?
Yes. 4 other women had been butchered in exactly the same way over the previous 18 months. 3 in Montmartre, and 1 in a street close to the Rue de Montaigne.
All prostitutes?
All unfortunate women of the same calling as poor Regine. Whatever you may think of that calling, they had as much right to life as the Queen at Windsor.
And this butcher was running rings around the Frog Police.
Tyre was in charge of the case, but he'd made no progress. A fact which the ever-vigilant press were not slow to point out. I have some cuttings here. This is typical. It's from Le Figaro.
Since the summer of 1885, 4 women of the same class as Regine de Monte have been murdered. Marie Fellerath, Maria Join, Hélène Stein, and Marie Agouton. No trace of the assassin has been found by the incompetent Monsieur Tyre. The police have the audacity to charge the press with hindering their investigations. It would be better if they devoted their energies to tracking down the criminal. Only when he is behind bars will women feel safe on the streets of the capital.
Poor Tyre, he didn't deserve that. I mean, there was no better man on the force. Patient, thorough. But unfortunately, he was under constant pressure from his superiors and the press for a quick result.
I should jolly well think so.
Well, anyway, while I was examining the bodies in greater detail, he and his 2 assistants went through the apartment with a fine-tooth comb. After about half an hour, Tyre came to the maid's room where I was working.
Yes, it would not be possible, I imagine, for the murderer to avoid bloodstains on his clothing.
Oh, quite impossible. The severed arteries, blood would spray all over the place.
As I thought. So if the crime was premeditated, he would take his clothes off.
If he'd been admitted here for the normal purpose, it would be remarkable if he'd kept his clothes on for very long.
Quite so. But he would take care to place them out of the way, behind a window curtain, for instance.
That would certainly be prudent. You found some clue?
I'm not sure. The man clearly wandered around naked, taking what he could find. There are bloody footprints in the drawing room, fingerprints all over the safe. The state of the bathroom shows that he cleaned himself thoroughly before leaving. Behind the curtain in the bedroom, we discovered this belt. As you see, it has a name printed on the back. Gaston Geisler.
Then your murderer seems to have left his calling card.
2 calling cards. Under Madame de Monte's body, we found this man's cuff. It has the cufflink still in it. A monographed cufflink.
And the initials are GG?
Yes.
Oh, then, Inspector, you're in luck. Your man's been doubly careless.
Possibly. But how did the cuff get under the body? Are we to imagine the murderer performing his terrible deed stark naked, except for one cuff, which then falls off without him noticing?
Excuse me, Inspector.
Well, am I? What is it?
Something you ought to see, sir. A letter. It was on the floor behind the dressing table.
Thank you, Lemoine. When you're finished in the bedroom, I want you to collect everyone who was in the building last night and start taking statements. You can use the concierge's apartment.
Sir.
Now then, what have we got here? My dear Regine, I have just arrived from Nancy, the portrait... Well, Porteous, it seems we now have 3 calling cards. Listen to this. My dear Regine, I have just returned from Nancy. The portrait is ready. I've put the finishing touches to the dress. I have paid out the 500 francs you lent me. That brute of a tradesman was annoying me, so thank you for your kindness. I will come to you tomorrow. Till then, my one hope, I kiss you where my burning lips bring you your one delight. Gaston. P.S. Be sure to destroy this as you always do.
There's an address on the letter.
No.
Oh, pity. Your murderer seems to have done everything to invite arrest except tell you where to find him.
He doesn't sound much like the cool, calculating monster we envisaged, does he?
Even the cleverest criminal makes mistakes, as you know, my friend. At last you have a real lead. It's an important breakthrough.
Odd, isn't it? 4 separate murders and no trace of a clue. Now suddenly the place is littered with evidence. I'm beginning to get a feel for this man. I think he's playing with us.
But you cannot ignore Monsieur Geisler.
No, that's the devil of it. I shall have to set men onto looking for this artist, while the culprit may be laughing at me up his sleeve.
My dear fellow, I think you're making the case more complicated than it is. Geisler's your man, depend upon it.
Well, we shall see. For the moment, I prefer to keep an open mind.
Inspector Tailleur was a very experienced investigator.
That sounds like a bit of an idiot to me. Well, anyone who thinks murderers and thieves are clever is only making them more important than they are, giving them a sort of romance. Well, take these Sherlock Holmes stories that are all the rage in England. They only make crime seem attractive. They show the police up as fools and encourage thugs to try their luck. Now, we've a short way with them in the army, I can tell you. Some of your sûreté people might learn a thing or two if they watch some English court-martials.
I'll certainly pass on that invaluable suggestion. In the Rue Montaigne case, things certainly seemed at first to be very straightforward. Tailleur took statements from the concierge, Monsieur Lacarrière, and his wife.
It was close on 11:30 last night when I saw a man come into the house. And the collar of his coat was turned up. He wore a top hat. He looked quite respectable. As he passed my lodge, he called out, Madame de Monte, without asking for the number of her flat. He wore a grey scarf, or muffler, and the man was slim. He had a black moustache.
I knew something like this was happening. I knew it. After that nice Vicomtesse Regine went away, she took to drinking absinthe and began accepting men she knew nothing about. Poor Madame.
No.
And the little girl was such an angel.
Madame, collect yourself. Did you see the man who came last night?
Yes. When he passed the lodge and called out her name.
Well, what did he look like?
Oh, a gentleman. Or so he seemed. He'd called on Madame de Monte before, but I didn't know his name.
Come, Madame, this is little help to us. Can you tell us no more? But was he tall, short, thin, fat, fair, dark?
Oh, short, certainly. Short and thin. Skinny, almost. He looked as though we could use a good meal. And his hair was brown, yes, definitely brown.
And no one else visited the apartment last night?
No, monsieur. The door is locked at 11 o'clock. No one can come and go after that, without my knowledge.
Did the police find this Geisler fellow? And did he match the concierge's description?
Oh, poor Tailleur. What a merry dance this Geisler was to lead him. Within hours, the admirable superintendent had his men scouring the hotels and lodging houses of the city, and this bore fruit immediately. It took Tailleur to the Hotel Cailleux in the Rue Saint-Quentin.
Didn't like the look of him from the start. But in this business, one cannot be choosy, monsieur. Of course, if I'd realised that he was the one that's done all these murders...
Paid his bills?
Oh, he paid, eventually, whenever I threatened to put him out in the street. It was because he was so irregular that I moved him from one of my better apartments to this room at the top of the house. Voila, monsieur. This is where your murderer has lived for the last few weeks.
Madame Jourdain, we do not know that Geisler is our man. We are only making inquiries.
Inquiries. Isn't his name Geisler? And didn't he leave on the afternoon of the 16th? And weren't those terrible murders done that very night? And hasn't he disappeared without trace, leaving all his belongings?
You say he called himself Henri Geisler.
Henri Gaston. Name in a hotel register, it means nothing. You also told me he was Austrian, and I didn't believe that either.
Well, thank you very much, Madame. My colleague and I will examine the room carefully and return the key to you later.
Oh, well, I haven't got all day to come up and down these stairs looking after you, gentlemen, you know.
Well, Lamont, what have we got?
Well, there's a battered travelling bag here under the bed.
Let's see what's in it, then.
Cigars from a shop in Cologne. Shirts, socks, 2 grubby collars.
Just a minute. Look at this. And this.
It's on the collars, too.
GG.
He's our man right enough.
You think so, Lemoine?
Well, surely there can't be any doubt, sir. The laundry marks are identical. And according to the hotel staff, he fits the picture.
Well, we shall know much more when we've found Geisler. Somehow, I don't think that's going to be easy.
Have you ever tasted meat cooked to such perfection? I'd press you to more, but there are other delights to come. Georges!
Professeur? Messieurs, tout va bien?
Oh, naturellement, mon ami. Monsieur Charles est un véritable magicien. Et maintenant, apportez les entremets, s'il vous plaît.
Tout de suite, monsieur.
I ordered a selection of entremets. They are works of art. There's no other words to describe them.
I'll wager your French police never found this Geisler fellow.
Ah, well, Captain Danvers, as to that, more anon. This was the moment at which there was a wholly new development in the case. On the evening of March the 20th, at the Grand Theatre, Marseille, a performance of The Barber of Seville was in progress. As the first interval approached, Inspector Cicaldi of the local police force quietly entered a box. Its sole occupant was a young man in immaculate evening dress. He looked up with a start as the inspector addressed him.
Monsieur Henri Panzini?
Yes?
Inspector Cicaldi, Marseille Police. Will you please be kind enough to accompany me to the bureau?
Accompany you to the... Certainly not. What's all this about?
Well, allow me to point out, monsieur, that I have 2 constables with me. If you don't come of your own free will, I shall be obliged to place you under restraint.
Very well. But you'll see that you're making a mistake.
Right, in here. Sit down there, if you please, monsieur, by the table. We have some acquaintances of yours here. Bring in Lebrun. Come in, Lebrun.
Look, Inspector, how much longer are you going to keep me? My cab's been standing idle outside an hour or more.
You can go when I say so. Now then, do you recognise this man?
Yeah, he hired me this afternoon. I picked him up at the restaurant Pascal.
And where did you take him?
Chez Aline, Rue Ventomachy.
Oh, the brothel?
Yeah, of course, the brothel. He stayed a couple of hours, he did. I reckon he must have got his money's worth.
Inspector, this fellow is clearly mistaken.
I know I ain't, mate. You get to know faces in my job.
Right, Lebrun, that'll do. You can go now.
Right.
Ask Madame Fontaine to come in on your way out.
Just what is all this about?
You'll find out soon enough, as if you didn't know. Ah, Madame Fontaine, come in. You've been most helpful already. I won't keep you much longer.
It's all right, Inspector. I always cooperate with the police, as you well know.
Take a good look at this gentleman, Madame. Did he patronise your establishment this afternoon?
That he did, Inspector. He was entertained by Fleur and Elise, 2 of my best girls.
And what happened after he left?
Well, they came in to me all agitated. They're very good girls, very religiously brought up. All my girls are good girls, regular at Mass and confession.
Just tell us what happened.
Yes, that's what I'm doing, Inspector. And as I said, they were very agitated. It seems this gentleman had sold them some jewellery for a few francs. He said they were cheap gimcracks, but of course I could see as soon as they showed them to me that they were high-quality items.
Do you identify the articles in this box as the valuables in question?
Yes, Inspector. Lovely earrings and a charming little watch set with diamonds, obviously valuable.
And you thought you'd check to see if they'd been stolen, in case there was a reward?
I did my duty as a citizen, Inspector.
Of course. Well, thank you, Madame Fontaine. I know you're a busy woman. I won't detain you any longer. Constable, see the lady out.
Well, if you're sure there's nothing...
Nothing.
Goodbye then, Inspector. Let me know if I can be of any further assistance. My girls and I...
Well now, Monsieur Panzini.
Oh, Inspector, if there should be a reward...
Madame, you will be the first to know. Goodbye.
Well, you don't seriously believe these wretches? Oh, you're not going to take the word of cabbies and women of the street against the word of a gentleman. Do I look like a common jewel thief?
You don't recognise these pieces of jewellery, of course.
I've never seen them before.
And you've no idea where they came from.
Well, how could I?
Then allow me to enlighten you, monsieur. For the last 2 years, as the press delight in pointing out, a particularly vile murderer has been on the loose in Paris. To date, he has claimed 7 victims. His last atrocity occurred 3 days ago, but this time there was a difference. This time the madman stole jewellery from his victim. Jewellery which could be traced. Jewellery which has been traced. Those items before you answer precisely to a description issued by the Office of the Sûreté in Paris. It seems that the experts in the capital do sometimes find use for us simple provincial policemen.
God, you're not trying to connect me with this murder that's been in all the papers.
We've been pursuing our investigations in our dull, provincial way, and we find your movements very interesting, Monsieur Panzini. You will not, I imagine, deny that you arrived in Marseille yesterday on the express train from Paris.
Along with at least 100 other people.
Well, we've notified our colleagues in the big city. Pending their arrival, we are holding you on suspicion of the murder of Madame Regine de Monte.
So this Panzini was the man passing himself off as Henry Geisler, eh?
Oh, no. No, the mysterious Geisler, you recall, was a short man with a moustache, and so thin that he looked in need of a good meal. Only Panzini was 31 years old, well-built, above average height, and clean-shaven. But come, my friends, we are neglecting our victuals. Let's see what the good George has brought for us. Roast truffles and... lobster au gratin. And what have we lurking under this cover? Grouse in soured cream. Oh, that you must try. It is made to a recipe by the immortal Carême.
Who on earth is Carême?
And this amazing Eiffel Tower in pastry.
Now, that is the pièce de résistance, a speciality of Le Grand Véfour, a crisp eggshell-thin crust concealing an exquisite combination of garlic, tomatoes, and calves' brains. I insist that you let me give you a little, Captain Danvers.
Thank you. No. Perhaps a portion, just a very tiny portion of the grouse.
If Panzini wasn't the murderer, he must have received the jewels from the murderer. Presumably he could lead the police to him.
Panzini was an enigma. He denied all knowledge of the jewels and of Regine de Monte, until he was presented with incontrovertible evidence.
The police were able to connect him with the murdered boy?
Among the visiting cards on a tray in her drawing room was one bearing the name Henri Panzini. Yeah. There was more than enough information to connect him to the crime, and by detaining and examining Panzini, the police could at last be seen to be doing something. But still, Tyler was not happy.
Porteous, thank you for being so prompt.
I came as soon as I received your message.
No, don't sit down. I want you to meet this Panzini fellow. You can spare me the time?
Of course.
Then we'll go straight away. I have a cab waiting.
My dear Tyler, I'm totally mystified. You've directed the cab to drive to the Rue Montaigne.
The inspecting magistrate, Monsieur Guillot, has resolved upon a little experiment. He's taking Panzini to the scene of the crime.
Guillot thinks the prisoner will crack.
He's determined to wring a confession from Panzini.
But why do you want me there?
I want you to help me understand Panzini's mind.
My dear Tyler, I'm an expert in bodies, not minds. You should consult someone like Jean Charcot. He's doing some very interesting work at Salpêtrière Hospital. Of course, psychology is a very new science. At the end, it may not amount
I can't go to any of these loony doctors. The surintendant would be furious. All he wants is a conviction against Panzini, and quickly.
Then...
I am the one who has to go into court and make a good case against this man. I have to persuade a jury that Panzini is the sort of man who could butcher 7 women in cold blood. The defense lawyers will make great play of the fact that Panzini does not fit the description of the man seen going into Madame de Monte's apartment.
Well, it was dark on the staircase. The visitor covered his face.
I'm not talking about legal arguments, Porteous. I want to know that Panzini is our man. You remember I said I felt the murderer was laughing at us, challenging us to outwit him. I felt that when I came face to face with the assassin, I would be quite sure to recognize him.
And you're not certain about Panzini?
He's a pretty pathetic creature.
Well, what have you found out about him?
It's rather a squalid story. He was born in Egypt and worked for the postal service there until he was caught pilfering registered letters.
Oh.
When he came out of prison, he seems to have gone straight for a time. He travelled in India and the Near East doing a variety of jobs. Quite a clever young young man. Speaks 5 languages. By the time he returned to Europe, he was a compulsive gambler. He did everything he could think of to finance his obsession. He went through several jobs and was dismissed from most of them for petty theft.
Well, he certainly doesn't sound like a crazed killer of defenseless women.
Ah, but he is a ladies' man. Apparently, they find him quite irresistible. In recent years, that's how he's made his money, as a gigolo, picking up wealthy middle-aged women and living off them. That's his alibi for the time of the Rue Montaigne murders. He says he spent the entire night with a lady of quality.
That can easily be checked.
Oh, no. Our young gallant refuses to name her. A question of honor, he says.
Chivalry doesn't usually take men to the guillotine.
The guillotine. Ah, that's it. Supposing we get our conviction and Panzini is executed, and supposing that the next week there's another of these ghastly murders. Watch him closely, Porteous. I really would like to know what you make of Monsieur Henri Panzini.
My God! Oh, you didn't tell me the place had been left in this mess. It'll be the devil's own job to get those bloodstains off the wall and the carpet and the stench.
Monsieur Guillot's specific instructions. He has a taste for the dramatic. And here he comes, on cue. Our instructions are to stand here, stage right, and say nothing.
You are, of course, familiar with the late Madame de Monte's bedroom, Panzini?
I have never been in here before.
Look here at this blood-stained bed. Was this where you struck down Regine de Monte?
I have nothing to do with this business. And I swear it's the first time I've ever been in this room.
Was it here that the woman fell? Was it from this table that you stole the jewels found in your possession in Marseille?
I never had those jewels.
They were almost seen in your hands. The woman to whom you tried to sell them handed them over immediately to the police.
It was not I.
This safe even now bears bloodstains left by the murderer's fingers when he tried to open it.
I tell you, I have nothing to do with this business. And I repeat, I have never been in this room.
Ha! It was here on the threshold of this room that the maid was struck down as she was going to her mistress's aid. Come now to the room where the most terrible part of the tragedy took place.
I have never been in this room. I don't know it any more than the other one. I have never seen anything but the drawing room.
On this bed, all soiled with blood, the poor child was literally beheaded. The sight of this place where such awful events happened awakens no emotion in you.
It moves me, because I feel sorry for the poor victim.
You are the murderer. All the circumstances point to it, and your lies complete the proof.
I am not lying. I have not got this on my conscience.
You see, you are under a terrible charge that you have committed a crime which has appalled the whole of France. For the last time, I appeal to you, here, in this dreadful place. If you are innocent, clear yourself. Tell me where you passed the night that these atrocious murders were committed.
I was with a lady.
A married lady?
Yes.
Her name? Strange, is it not, that this lady of quality, this aristocratic adulteress, who holds you in such apparent esteem, is not prepared to come forward and save you from the guillotine? Your silence is more eloquent than any confession.
Surely, monsieur, it is for you to prove that I was here, not for me to prove that I was not.
Put this top hat on and come with me.
Top hat? What?
Do as you're told.
La Carrière! La Carrière!
That'll take the man. Where is he?
La Carrière!
Coming, monsieur. Stand just there, at the foot of the stairs, and fetch your wife. Jean, come here. The magistrate wants you.
Good morning, monsieur le concierge. What Monsieur Guillot here wishes to know is whether you recognize me. Was I here the night those unfortunate women were murdered?
I'm not sure. I thought the man was smaller. But the face, no. Well, he had his collar turned up.
Like this?
That's right, yes.
Well?
No, I don't think he... Go back a few steps up the stairs.
Oh, really? How long is this charade?
Come, La Carrière. Do you recognize this as the man who asked for Madame de Monte at 11:30 on the night of the 16th of March? No, monsieur. Madame?
No, monsieur.
There's nothing amusing about your situation, Panzini. Inspector Tailleur, a word if you please. Tailleur, I want you to go through this place again, microscopically.
Monsieur Guillaume.
Microscopically, Tailleur. Somewhere here is the proof that Panzini committed these murders.
I have certain other leads to follow up.
Leads? What leads?
The Brussels police believe they have found Geisler.
Geisler, red herring. Don't waste your time with him. Get me evidence against Panzini.
But surely, Monsieur Guillaume.
I am under instructions from the office of the President. You understand? The President. We have to restore public confidence in the police and silence these guttersnipe reporters. I have been ordered to secure a conviction, and we will obey those orders.
Gentlemen, you will find this Chateau Yquem absolutely stunning. It's the 1869. Oh, what can one say? Honey and musk roses and liquid gold, eh? A perfect compliment for the final course of our modest repast. Now, let me see what we have. Omelette soufflé, charlotte russe au gingembre, pêche à la turque.
Come on, Professor. Don't keep us in suspense. What did you make of this Panzini?
The fellow sounds like an absolute villain. He was obviously lying through his teeth.
Well, half the population of France would have agreed with you, Captain. The other half saw Panzini as a romantic figure, a rogue, certainly, but a rogue with a sense of honour in matters of l'amour.
And you?
Well, when I observed Henri Panzini that day, I thought to myself, here is a man who loves life. You know, he was manacled and surrounded by police. He'd been days in prison, interrogated several times. I couldn't agree with Tailleur that he was a pathetic creature. No, there was an animal vivacity about him. I could see why women were drawn to him. He seemed to regard his arrest as just another adventure in a life which had been full of adventures.
Perhaps murder was just one more fascinating experience for him.
Possibly. And yet, could a man who manifestly loved life deprive others of it so viciously? Anyway, the case against Panzini was far from conclusive. The hunt for fresh evidence was intensified, and Tailleur personally set out on the Geisler track.
But I thought the inspector told you that, in his opinion, the Geisler evidence had only been planted by the real murderer.
Yeah, that's true. But I think that as the days passed, Tailleur became more and more convinced of Panzini's innocence. He hoped that the mysterious G.G. would cast some clear light on the case. So, Geisler became for him a sort of holy grail. And almost as elusive, he kept popping up and vanishing again all over the place.
A report from the Belgian police that Geisler had been seen in Brussels, and the indefatigable Tailleur was off, hot foot.
Monsieur l'Inspector, we're desolate. Our man's disappeared. However, our colleagues in Antwerp think they've located your man.
Your name is Gaston Geisler?
Oui, monsieur.
Would you mind telling me where you were on 16th of March last?
Right here, monsieur, in my shop, where I have been every day for the last 20 years.
You have witnesses to that effect?
But of course, monsieur. My wife, my children, my customers, my neighbors, they...
On to Cologne to speak with the shopkeeper who provided the cigars found in Geisler's bag. No help there. Doggedly, Tailleur travelled to Breslau, where Geisler's shirts had been manufactured. There, patience was rewarded.
Yes. Here we are. These were sold to a Frau Gutentag.
You have the address?
Oh, nein, Herr Inspector. It was only a small order.
Have you a town directory?
Certainly. Right here.
Good folk. Good man. Guten Tag. Well, there are pages of them.
It's a common name, Herr Inspector.
2 days and 27 Guten Tags later...
Yes, these are Georg's things.
Your son?
Yes. Is he all right? Has anything happened to him?
He is not at home, then?
No, he and my husband, they had an argument. Georg left. He just packed a bag and left.
When was this?
Last February, Inspector.
Do you know where he went, Frau Guten Tag?
Oh, yes. He went to Paris. But surely you know all this, Inspector.
Why should I know it, madame?
Because your police arrested him. He is in a Paris prison.
Prison?
Yes, I have a letter from him here. See the address for yourself.
Cell 81, 1st Division, Mazas Prison, Paris.
Oh, that must have shown the French police up for the dolts they are, scouring Europe for a murderer who's under their very noses.
Oh, yes, the newspapers were merciless, as you can imagine.
Still, they had got their murderer.
Monsieur Guillot did not think so. He examined Guten Tag himself and discovered that the young man had stayed in the Hotel Caillou. He had used the assumed name Henri Geisler. He had left the hotel without paying on the 16th of March, and he had no alibi for the time of the murders. The poor penniless wretch had wandered the streets for some days, and then thrown himself into the Seine.
Well, that's the action of a guilty man.
I thought you were convinced that Panzini was the murderer.
Oh, they must have been hand in glove.
Well, such was certainly Inspector Tyler's conviction.
Enter. Monsieur Guillot, I have just been refused access to Guten Tag at Mazas prison. They referred me to you. Monsieur Guillot, it is imperative that I continue my interrogation.
Calm yourself, Inspector. Take a chair. Now, it is not possible for you to examine Guten Tag further.
Not possible?
Precisely. Georges Guten Tag was released yesterday on my instructions.
Released?
Do stop repeating everything, my dear Tailleur. Guten Tag was released because he has no relevance to this case.
But that has not been established.
Tracking Guten Tag down was an excellent piece of work on your part. You have tidied up the Geisler myth. You have silenced the press. Now we can forget about Geisler and Guten Tag and concentrate on the indictment of Panzini. The trial begins on Tuesday. I imagine it will take you all your time to prepare your evidence.
But there are things I need to know. How did his clothing get into the Rue Montaigne house?
Doubtless Panzini bought some of the penniless young man's personal effects.
But he denies ever having met Panzini.
He won't be able to deny it in court, will he?
Why not?
By now he must have returned to Germany. How beautiful the gardens are looking this year. I often stand here in this window and look at them. They have a very calming effect.
The defense lawyers
will have a very difficult job to track him down. And even if they do, he is not obliged to return to Paris to give evidence.
So that's why you were in such a hurry to release Guten Tag. My God, to think I once respected you.
Tailleur, you are an excellent detective. You do your job and leave me to do mine.
I thought we were both concerned to discover the truth.
Do you know, I really think the roses are out earlier this year.
So there you have it, my friends. Those are the basic facts in the case of the murders in the Rue Montaigne. How say you? Was only Panzini guilty or not guilty?
Well, he was obviously a thoroughly bad lot. The world would be well rid of his sort.
Mm-hmm. Shoot first and ask questions afterwards, eh? What do you think, Philip?
Well, the police case was obviously weak. I imagine everything must have hinged on how the lawyers presented the evidence at the trial.
Ah, yes, the trial. Here, in this interesting note case, are the press accounts of the court proceedings. You see how voluminous they are. The trial spread over 5 days. 5 days in a stuffy courtroom at the height of summer. Public and press crammed into every available seat. Everyone straining to hear the evidence. Participants in the drama that will decide the death or life of a fellow human being. Evidence is set up and knocked down. Arguments flaunt themselves and clash like knights at a tourney. Witnesses come and go. But the man everyone is waiting to see is the prisoner, the enigmatic Henri Panzini. Not until the afternoon of the 3rd day is he placed in the witness box by his counsel, Maître de Monte.
Monsieur Panzini, I will not trouble you with the alleged weapon which the police have been unable to produce in evidence, or the absence of an alibi which the prosecution set so much store by. The trivia I have already disposed of. What I would like you to do is to tell the court, in your own words, how you knew Madame de Monte and when you saw her last.
I met Madame de Monte at a soirée given by a mutual friend some 3 weeks before her unfortunate death. We talked a great deal. She appeared to find my company congenial. She intimated that I might call upon her. I did so a few days later. She was not at home, so I left my card.
Did you call again?
Yes, a few days before her death. I think it was a Tuesday.
Your call was professional?
Certainly not. Purely social.
She received you in her sitting room?
Of course. Where else would she receive me?
Then at no time did you enter the bedroom?
I never saw the interior of her bedroom until the police showed it to me.
Mm-hmm. How did she appear to you?
Regine de Monte was a lady experiencing...
Speak up, man! The court cannot hear you.
Regine de Monte was a lady experiencing great sorrow. She was someone who needed friends, confidants, advisors. She was at the end of her tether.
Yes, and she found in you a kindred spirit.
I believe so.
She was not the only woman to find consolation in your friendship, was she?
No.
No. Now, you've heard the public prosecutor describe you as an unscrupulous man who battens upon defenseless women. How do you respond to that?
It proves only that the learned gentleman understands neither me nor women. I have many lady friends, yes. A few lovers, certainly. Most of them neglected, abandoned by their husbands, by society, or in the fine houses and squalid apartments of this so civilized city. Do you know how many lonely women there are? Women whose lives are empty, unfulfilled. Women who wilt like flowers in a dark cupboard because in our society where men hold sway, they are not allowed to blossom, to contribute the fragrance of their intelligence, their understanding to the course of human affairs. Madame de Monte was one such. Men she knew in plenty. Men who wanted but one thing from her. Men who would pay her with mere money, but denied her the companionship, understanding, love that she craved. Was it wrong of me to make up in some small way for the outrageous shortcomings of my sex?
Silence! I will have silence! Very eloquent, Panzini. If your relationship with the dead woman was so noble and pure, why did you deny all knowledge of her to the police?
Monsieur le Président, it was foolish. I confess it. But as prosecuting counsel has taken great delight in telling the court, I have had several brushes with the police in my colourful career. It has become a natural instinct to avoid such encounters whenever possible. In my experience, the police are unable to see a false conclusion without jumping to it.
So the trial goes on, until at last the dramatic closing moments are reached. The public prosecutor has stitched the patches of police evidence together to make, as he hopes, a mantle of guilt.
I have shown you how this desperate man struck up an acquaintance with the unfortunate Madame de Monte, not for the purpose of satisfying his lust, but to furnish his debauched way of life. I have shown how he acquired the murder weapon, how he equipped himself with the false Geisler clues with which he littered his victim's apartment. I have shown you how he struck down Regine de Monte, how the poor woman attempted to summon aid, how Panzini, without a modicum of pity, dispatched the maid and even a poor, innocent sleeping child. I have shown how he took the dead woman's jewels and how he was caught trying to dispose of them. Here is no crime of passion, gentlemen of the jury. Here is a planned, premeditated, callous massacre, the like of which neither I, nor I venture to suggest, anyone in this court has ever encountered. I have no hesitation in calling for the maximum penalty, for in such a truly appalling crime, there can be no extenuating circumstances. Regine de Monte, Annette Dremeray and little Marie were brutally done to death by the man who stands before you. The man whose arrogance throughout this trial speaks volumes. I will not tell you that the blood of his wretched victims cries for vengeance. We are not here to take revenge. It is justice that I demand. Justice in full measure.
Maitre Demange, you may now present your defense summation.
Gentlemen of the jury, I lack the eloquence of my learned friend. I am glad that it is so, for I speak not to move your hearts, but to convince your minds, to help you to see, like the honest and intelligent men you are, that no case has been made against my client. What is all this evidence against Panzini? What does it amount to? He will not tell us where he spent the night of 16th, 17th of March. Subsequently, he was found in possession of some baubles belonging to this Geisler, who led the police such a song and dance, may have been a chimera, a myth created to confuse the agents of law and order. But the small, skinny man with the top hat and the turned-up collar, he is no myth. He exists. He went to Madame de Monte's apartment on the night of the 16th of March, and he murdered that unfortunate woman and her household. He is not Panzini. Yet the police made no attempt to track down the real assassin. Why not? Because they have in Panzini a man who will serve very well as a substitute. He was in possession of the dead woman's jewels, and very obligingly he refuses to alibi himself for the time of the murder. But why, I hear you ask, why does the prisoner, standing now in the very shadow of the guillotine, not break silence? Why does he not name his lover? Surely it can only be because she does not exist. Gentlemen of the jury, that lady does exist. I know her name. No, gentlemen. You shall not have it from my lips. I remain as silent as my client. And for the same reason, we both know how dire would be the consequences for this nation of revealing the lady's name. That Panzini has become the confidant of someone so highly placed may surprise you. But his loyalty in protecting from vulgar scrutiny she who has befriended him should awaken not suspicion, but admiration. We come now to the night of the crime. He received those trifling jewels not knowing their bloody provenance. Now that was wrong. It made him an accessory to burglary. It did not make him a murderer. Now, Panzini's last words to me this morning were, plead for death or liberty. He wants life with its joys. Life with gambling and women. No halfway verdict which would confine him to a prison cell will satisfy him. Nor will it satisfy justice. The public prosecutor says, I want your head. Panzini replies, I want my liberty. Gentlemen of the jury, upon you falls the solemn responsibility of deciding which plea to grant. Rise to the level of your duty.
Lawyer got Panzini off scot-free, did he?
The answer is here.
What, in your note case?
Yes, in the note case you so rightly admire. Please take it. Examine it closely. Philip, a little more of this splendid EPM.
Did Panzini get off?
One newspaper reporter at the time wrote, "A jury of women would have acquitted him, a jury of eunuchs would have recommended boiling oil." Unfortunately, Panzini was tried by 12 men.
They brought in a verdict of guilty?
Yes, and a very controversial verdict it was.
Did it put a stop to the murders?
The wave of killings in Paris stopped abruptly.
Well, there you are, then.
I wonder. Henri Panzini was executed on the 31st of August, 1887. Exactly 1 year later, on the 31st of August, 1888, Mary Nichols was hacked to pieces in the Whitechapel district of London.
The first Jack the Ripper murder?
Just so.
Good God. You don't think?
It could be coincidence, of course, but consider all the similarities. Both men are the same mental type. My friends who specialize in these things call them psychopaths, I believe. Both attack prostitutes. Both use knives with almost surgical skillfulness, and both delight to run rings round the police.
But what about the jewels Panzini handled?
Well, if the murderer could devise the false Geisler trail, he could just as easily plant the stolen jewellery on Panzini. It may have been just another diversion. Tailleur always felt that the assassin was playing a game with him. But, thanks to Panzini's altogether unexpected behaviour, it all turns out even better than the murderer could have hoped. With someone else actually condemned, it's obviously wise for the man to lie low for a while. But his craving cannot be indefinitely held in check. He must kill again. But Paris, France, is too dangerous a place to resume his activities, so he strikes in Whitechapel. And on the anniversary of Panzini's death, as much as to say, I'm back. I made idiots of the Sûreté, and I can make idiots of the London police.
So an innocent man may have been sent to the guillotine?
Who knows? All I can say is that in many minds a question mark still hangs over the execution of Henri Panzini.
What am I supposed to be looking at in this note case?
Why, the cover, Captain. The cover. Ingeniously wrought and tooled, is it not?
It's certainly very unusual. This graining and beige colour.
Yes. After execution, Panzini's body came to the dissecting school at the university. Well, a common practice, as you know, Philip. Mm-hmm. One of my assistants hit upon a novel way of making himself some money out of this sensational case. He fashioned curious artifacts out of parts of the cadaver. Highly reprehensible, of course. So, Captain Danvers, you are holding in your hands poor Henri Panzini, or what's left of him. That note case is bound with his skin.
Oh, Giles! What Captain Danvers, are you unwell?
Excuse me, but I must go. I'm feeling sick.
Poor Giles.
Well, surely it can't have been this excellent food. Perhaps it was something I said.
Gentleman, Murder is Served was written by Derek Wilson. Hector Porteous was played by Peter Jeffrey, and Inspector Tailleur by Christopher Ettridge. Charles Danvers was Cornelius Garrett, and Philip Delamain was Graham Pountney. Regine de Monte was played by Barbara Kellerman, and Georges the Waiter and Henri Panzini were Christian Rodska. Madame La Carrière was Peggy Ann Wood, Monsieur La Carrière, Henley Goodall, Monsieur Guillot was Jack Watson, and the Maître d'Armes was John Moffat. Inspector Tricaldi was Philip Manicum, the prosecutor Stephen Lyons, Madame Jordan, Joe Anderson, Lemoyne, Dominic Rickards, and Madame Fontaine was Joanna Mackey. Other parts were played by members of the cast. The play was directed in Bristol by Andy Jordan.
The Recall Man is a radio drama series by David Knapfine. It is a crime drama revolving around Dr. Joe Aston, a forensic psychologist who specializes in memory. A native of Middlesbrough, Aston returns to his hometown for a 6-month attachment to the local police force.
It was agreed with you and your solicitor that you'd talk to Dr. Aston.
I'm not mad, you know.
No one thinks you are, Miss Hale. Would you like tea brought in?
That'd be nice.
How do you like it, Doctor?
Milk, no sugar, thanks.
I'll have coffee, please. Milk, no sugar.
Right. I'll see you later, Dr. Aston. Miss Hale.
Those bruises look painful.
They are.
How did you get them?
I don't know, do I? I don't know how I got them, but they hurt like hell. Can you stop them hurting?
No.
Why are you here?
My job, Miss Hale, is to help people recover their memory.
And how are you going to do that, Dr.
Aston. But please, call me Joe.
Yeah, whatever. Do you believe I've lost my memory?
I don't know.
So you think I'm lying?
I'd like to do some tests with you.
What sort of tests?
Nothing complicated.
What are you writing?
Notes, just to help me.
Help you what?
Remember.
It's funny, isn't it? You can't remember, but you expect me to.
I don't expect anything, Miss Hale. In a minute, I'm going to tap my fingers,
This
and I'd
isn't
like
some
you...
new age crap, is it?
No. They're tests that have been used by psychologists for many years.
So it's still crap, then?
Is that what you think?
Look, I work with verifiable data and arrive at provable and practical results. That's science. Whereas what you do is just...
Mumbo-jumbo. I'm going to tap my fingers, and I would like you
presto, my memory will come back.
No.
Then why do it? Why won't anyone believe that I can't remember what happened?
Who says people don't believe you?
They don't believe me.
They?
The police.
We don't know that.
I do.
I don't.
And I thought psychologists knew what made people tick.
If you like, Miss Hale, I can go.
And then what would happen?
I don't know.
What do you know?
Nothing. That's why I'd like to do the tests. Is there a problem?
You're hoping to trick me, aren't you, so that I'll make a confession?
I'm not interested in confessions.
But you work for the police.
No, I work with the police.
And from where I'm sitting, there's no difference.
There is.
Prove it.
How?
Well, it's up to you. You're the expert. These tests, will they help me?
They'll help me work with you.
All right, then.
Thank you. In the first test, Miss Hale, all you have to do is listen, nothing else. Tap my fingers. Okay. That's it. Thank you.
What now?
I'd just like to talk to you for a while.
About what?
I'd like to find out at what point you lost your memory.
You do believe me, then? That I can't remember what happened?
Yes, but I need to
Will you tell them? Tell them that I'm not pissing about?
Yes.
He's dead, isn't he? Dr. Jones, strangled.
He was asphyxiated, yes.
Oh, I wouldn't be here if it was an accident, I know that. They said I was the only one in the clean room when it happened. Is that right?
It would seem that way.
So I'm the only suspect.
Or the only witness.
What do you think?
It doesn't matter what I think.
Well, that's a shame.
And why is that?
Because you believe me. Oh, it's a blank, it's empty. I keep saying that I don't remember anything, and you believe me. Just tell them I'm not lying.
I'll tell them what they need to know.
And then what?
We'll find out how much you can remember.
There you go.
Thank you, Constable. Just put it on the table. Thanks.
I'll just be outside, Doctor.
Uh-huh.
I'll tell you something, shall I?
What?
They've brought me tea instead of coffee.
Oh, I'll see if I can get it.
Forget it, there's not much difference anyway.
So, Miss Hale.
Grace. I prefer to be called Grace. You calling me Miss Hale all the time, it sounds... Well, it's a bit uncomfortable.
Okay. Grace. Tell me something about the day before yesterday.
Well, I can't remember.
Anything at all?
I don't get this. I don't get what this is about. I said I can't remember.
Well, do you remember getting up in the morning?
Yeah, well, of course I remember getting up in the morning.
And going to work?
Yes. You are trying to catch me out, aren't you? Let something slip that shows I've not really lost my memory. That's it, isn't it? Because it's the same questions as before. It's the same words, but with a different tone.
I need to find out at what point you lost your memory, that's all, and then help you retrieve what has been lost. But, Grace, I can't make you do anything you don't want to do.
What if I did kill him? And what if I didn't? What if I saw who killed him? What if they saw me? Is it better to be like this, not remembering?
I can't answer that.
Because I'm tired and I'm scared. Will I feel better if I remember?
I can't answer that.
Or will it be worse?
Your memory could come back at any time, whether you wanted to or not.
Is that right?
Yes.
And is that good?
That's not for me to say.
So, it's better if it comes back here with you. Is that what you're saying?
Quite possibly. Dr. Joe Aston talking with Grace
Are you recording
Hale.
this?
Yes.
Why?
So I can listen to it later.
Yeah, to catch me out.
Grace, I have no interest in catching you
Then
out.
why record it?
We'll talk about a lot of things, and one of us might say something that, on reflection, may well give us a way back into your memory.
Why should I trust you?
Because I'm a doctor. Dr. Joe Aston talking with Grace Hale, 14:20 hours, Saturday the 13th. Grace, you have agreed to a series of interviews that will be recorded, and you've agreed that these can be held without the presence of your solicitor. Now,
Who'll
have you
listen to
agreed
them?
They'll be used to assist the police in their investigation.
Oh, so you are helping them?
No, but our conversations might. So, have you agreed to these interviews?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, Grace, I'd like you to describe your typical working day. Grace.
Why?
I'm interested.
You'd be better off getting a life.
Tell me about your journey to work.
I'm sorry, I'm too tired for this.
You look tired.
Then why make me do it?
It'll help.
How?
Give it time.
I used the A66. Do you know it?
Mm-hmm.
And it was raining, wasn't it? I hate driving when it's like that. It's the spray from the lorries, you can't see properly.
What happens when you arrive at work?
I sign in.
And you did that the day before yesterday?
I do that every day. We all do. I show them my identity card and then I sign the book. That they all know me, but I not so many people working there as there used to be, but parts of the site don't seem to have anyone there. It's a bit like a ghost town, really.
It's changed a lot.
Do you know it?
And my uncle worked there.
Oh, what did he do?
Not sure. But me, my mum and Auntie Jean would be walking to the shops, and my auntie would stop and sniff the air, and she'd say, "Smell that, Joe?" And there'd be this acrid stink, And she'd say, "Your Uncle Tom's responsible for that." Even now, I'm not sure whether I was supposed to be proud of him or not.
Well, it's different now.
I know.
Come in. Oh, Dr. Aston. I wasn't expecting you just yet. How'd it go?
It's early days, Karen.
Not for us, it isn't. Sit down.
She's very tired, so I didn't push it. Given her facial bruising, it looks like there's been damage to the temporal frontal lobe. What did the doctor say?
That she was severely concussed.
Which has given rise to amnesia. Well, that's certainly what the tests indicate, but at the moment I don't know the extent of her memory loss.
Did she tell you how the bruising happened?
No.
But she has lost her memory.
It would seem so. Were Dr. Jones and Grace definitely the only two in the clean room?
Has she told you there was someone else?
She hasn't told me anything.
Can her memory be recovered?
Yes.
When?
I don't know.
Right. Come in.
Sorry to disturb you, ma'am, Dr. Aston. I just thought you'd like to see the latest from Forensic, Ma'am.
Ah, any use?
Oh, not much. How are you getting on with Grace, Doc?
As expected.
Anything that might help?
I'm sure that as soon as Dr. Aston has something helpful, he'll tell us.
I'll be very interested to see what you come up with, Doc.
Sure. Do you know much about my area of work?
Do you fancy a drink when you're done? We like to nip over the road and throw darts at a picture of David Plunkett.
I'd like to meet first thing tomorrow, Doctor, to see the progress you've made.
Of course. Well, maybe another time, Jeff.
I look forward to it.
And then we can make an application to hold Grace Hale for another 24 hours.
Well, that should be straightforward, Mum.
I'd rather not take anything for granted.
I wonder if you could get a couple of things from me. I'd like a complete set of overalls from the clean room and a recording of the air conditioning system.
What for?
Visual and oral stimuli.
I'll get that for you, Dr. Aston. Tomorrow morning.
Thank you. I'll carry on then.
Right. Thanks a lot, Dr. Aston. Don't say a thing, Jeff.
Does he reckon she's really lost her memory then?
Yes.
Well, you saw it in there. It must have been a fight.
Well, with no fingerprints.
No memory, apparently.
We have to rely on Dr. Aston.
Is he any good?
He has a considerable reputation.
As an academic?
Well, the Assistant Chief Constable rates him, and that's all we need to know.
When our killer speaks... I'm sorry.
It's a trial period, Jeff, to see if his expertise helps us. And at the moment, is our best bet.
If he does make her remember, How will we know that what she's remembering is the truth?
I've no idea.
So now you're actually doing something. Are you moving out to Misery Street?
Aye, come on, Tom. I've not been that bad, have I?
Your Auntie Jean reckons you're sickening for Helen.
It's just strange being back in Middlesbrough, that's all.
Aye, but you and Helen are all right.
Yeah. There's nothing for you to worry about.
Hey, it's your Auntie Jean that's worried, not me. So when's Helen moving up then?
Let's just see how this trial period with the police goes.
I've been trying to explain to your Auntie Jean what you do. I mean, I know it's to do with people losing the memory, but when it comes to saying how you actually work with the coppers, where you get lost off.
All right, well, people can't always remember what happened when a crime's been committed, so that...
Especially when they did it, eh?
Hey, amnesia can be genuine, Tom.
Oh, it's excuses, man. I can't remember, I was stressed. I got depressed when my cat joined the Masons. Look, people that do out to avoid consequences, human nature. Well, you're a shrink, you should know about human nature.
It's complicated.
Right and wrong isn't. So are you on the side of the rogues or the coppers?
I don't take sides.
Well, you've got to take sides. Well, you used to at every opportunity. Or did you just sell socialist work because you had to have some excuse to wear a combat jacket and a woolly hat? Do you want one?
I've stopped.
What, even the happy tabs? Hey, and you work for the coppers.
Aye, shush, man.
So are you coming to the match, then?
Aye, of course. Whose round is it?
I can't remember.
Convenient.
So I can tell your Auntie Jean that you and Helen are all right.
Aye, we're fine, man. Oh, they loved this club, didn't they? Mum and Dad.
Yeah.
Loved it. Remember that time Dad broke his arm and Mum said...
I could stink, you know. And she'd say, your Uncle Tom's responsible for that. Even now, I'm not sure whether I was supposed to be proud of him or not.
What is this, Doctor? An oral history project?
It's the start of building a relationship, Karen. Then I can find out how much memory's been lost and establish a context and a timeline.
How long will this take?
How long is a piece of string?
That's no help, Dr. Aston.
It's other evidence that will establish whether she's guilty or not.
Unless she confesses.
Whether that will mean anything or not is another thing altogether. Don't forget she's in trauma. The bang to the head damaged the brain. Not severely, but enough. Add to that whatever happened in the clean room, which must have been unpleasant, and the brain will shut down as protection. Interrogation doesn't help either.
She was interviewed, Doctor, by two very experienced officers and in strict accord with PACE regulations.
I don't doubt that.
Nothing untoward's happened.
I know.
That's the way I work.
I know. I'll move as quickly as I can. The stuff I asked for, right?
Yeah, first thing. At least if the amnesia's genuine, permission to detain her for longer might be easier.
Good. Want one of these?
Is this a bribe?
I've stopped smoking.
These are my favourite. Have to race the kids to get these.
How many kids?
2. I'm the wicked stepmother.
What sense wicked?
Well, it depends on what I bribe him with. What flavour do you like?
Nicotine. Oh, I'm sorry, Karen, but I can't make memory conform to legal procedures. And I've got to be careful about planting suggestions because the slightest hint of that and a half-decent defence lawyer will make mincemeat of me. I'm too young to face that kind of trauma.
Oh, you'd be fine, Doctor. You'd just block it from your memory.
Oh,
Look, I'd like you to come to a briefing at some point when you feel you've made progress.
Right.
Is there a problem?
Would you want me to play the recordings at the briefings?
Of course, if you think they'll be useful.
I'd like to think they will be.
You're a member of the team, Doctor.
Good.
That's why I'd like you at the briefing.
I don't want to waste anybody's time, and I don't want what I do misinterpreted. It could make things more difficult.
This is a good team, Doctor. We're experts at what we do.
So am I.
Well, then we should trust one another.
I'd like you to show me how you dress at work.
What do you mean?
Would you mind putting these on?
You got a thing about overalls, have you?
There are many techniques to help recover the memory, Grace. This is just one of them.
I haven't played Let's Pretend since I was a kid.
I reckon we play Let's Pretend all the time. Want a sweet?
No, thanks.
Tell me about Dr. Jones.
He was a shit. He gave me a hard time when he was breathing, and he's giving me a hard time now. Oh.
The bruises.
They're painful.
Could you have fallen?
I've never done it before.
Well, you got the bruises in the clean room.
Or afterwards.
About Dr. Jones?
I couldn't stand the man. I told the police that.
Did you?
They don't tell you much, do they? That they trust you.
Give me an example of your relationship with Dr. Jones.
I've told you.
Any particular incident that sticks in your mind?
Last Wednesday, I think it was, I queried something. I reckon that he might have made a mistake with his figures. Not much, but enough. I pointed this out, and do you know what he did? He just leaned back in his chair, smiled, and said, I think you'll find that the fault is not with the figures.
Were the figures wrong?
Yeah, of course they bloody well were. So I had to go over them again and again. I got them right in the end. He patronised, he bullied, he blocked me all the time. I was brighter than him. I could easily have been heading the programme, and he knew it. All right, he wasn't going to retire and I wasn't about to take over, but he wouldn't encourage you. He'd take the credit but never the blame. Right, I've got the overalls on.
Oh, do you just walk straight into the clean room?
No, it's sensitive work, so there can't be any trace of dust or germs. You go into the gowning room first. You step onto a tacky mat that sort of pulls the bigger lumps of dirt from your shoes, and then you put the gloves, hat, mask and shoe covers on. You swing your legs over the low wall that separates you from the clean area, and you step
Could you have fallen getting over the wall?
No. Then you step into an air shower, which blows loose dirt off the gown.
And that's what you did 3 days ago.
That's what I do every day.
What's a clean room like?
Clean?
Can you talk to each other?
Not easily. The air's changed constantly, so there's this continuous noise. Can I get out of these now?
When did you take them off?
When I left the clean room, I was in everyday clothes when Don found me in the canteen.
Don?
Don Turner, the security guard. They really do keep you in the dark, don't they?
So you must have taken them off?
Yeah.
Can you remember where?
In the changing room, I expect.
I'd like to know how you take them off.
Why?
I'm building up a picture.
This is either silly or perverted.
That bag's the incinerator bin, and that one is the laundry bin. Do it at the speed you normally do.
I've come out of the clean room and stepped over the wall. I take off the gloves and then the mask. The gloves go in the incinerator bin along with the hat. I do the same with the shoe covers.
Are you always so methodical?
Yeah.
Every time?
Yes.
Are the others?
Oh, I should think so.
Was there anyone else in the clean room?
There shouldn't have been.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know.
Was Dr. Jones there?
Well, he must have been. He didn't leave, did he? Did I do it?
We don't know what happened.
If I did it, I want to confess. But I don't know, and nobody will tell me. Nobody. Was it me? How did I get these bruises? I didn't fall, so there must have been a fight. There must have. Was there? Did I hit him? Oh, if I could remember.
Yes.
I could confess.
Where'd you put the gown?
In the laundry bag. There. It's done.
And you're always methodical.
Yes.
With everything in
Yes.
its... She wonders if there was a fight.
Does she? Well, there's no doubt that somebody hit her, and hit her hard. Does she know anything about a fight?
No. But if there was, Dr. Jones may have been bruised in some way.
There was bruising around his throat.
From someone squeezing?
Yes. There was nobody else in the room, Doctor.
She did tell me that she hated Dr. Jones.
But that's not reason enough to kill anyone, is it?
If it was Dr. Jones who hit her, why did he hit her?
Self-defence? Was Dr. Jones defending himself?
Or defending Grace?
You will be at the briefing, won't you?
Of course. If it's useful.
I must have bought a cup of coffee myself, but I don't remember. Look, I don't even know how I got there, but I do remember Don finding me in the canteen.
How long had you been there?
I don't know.
And did you have the bruises then?
Well, something was hurting, and Don asked me what I'd done to my face.
What were you doing when he found you?
drinking coffee from the machine.
Do you remember going to the machine to buy the coffee?
No, I can remember Don talking to me, asking me why I was there. I shouldn't have been there. Not then.
Where should you have been?
I don't know. Home? I've been thinking, if we were the only two in the room and somebody hit me, that somebody must have been Dr. Jones.
Did Dr. Jones hit you?
I can't remember.
Can you describe the clean room?
I've done that.
That's right, you said it was tidy, clean, ordered.
That's what it's like.
Is it always like that?
Yes, but if Dr. Jones hit me...
Yes.
Was there a fight?
Was there?
Was Dr. Jones in a fight?
I don't know. Tell me something more about Dr. Jones.
Did he hit me?
We don't know what happened.
Why would he hit me?
You said you didn't like Dr. Jones.
Well, nobody liked him. He was a bully. I was better at the job than he was.
Well, that's very frustrating.
Did I hit him? You're always eating sweets, aren't you?
Well, substitute for cigarettes. Would you like one?
Oh, go on then. No, I've changed my mind.
OK. You said that it was noisy in the clean room because of the machines changing the air, so was there much talking?
Well, you could hear him bollocking you, all of us heard that.
All of you?
But there was no one else in the clean room, not them.
Uh-huh. Where had they gone?
Home.
So why were you still there?
Was I working late? Me and Dr. Jones? That happened.
So why were you working late?
I didn't know I was going to work late. At least, I don't think I knew. He was like that. He'd say something needed finishing and you worked late.
So there was just the two of you in the room?
Must have been.
And can people just walk in and out?
No chance. Strict security.
If there was someone in there who shouldn't be in there, would you know who they were?
Of course.
Even though their faces were covered by a mask? You didn't know that you had to work late until he told you. You'd think he'd have said.
Normal people would.
Maybe he didn't know until last minute.
He'd know.
When did you know?
When did I know what?
That you had to work late?
I don't know.
Can you tell me what you were working on?
I can't remember. It would be on the worksheet.
What words do you remember being spoken?
He asked me if I was all right. Don asked me if I was all right. I said I was, and I drove home.
You felt well enough to drive?
I remember feeling tired and climbing into bed. The next thing I remember is the police at my door, and they were really nice. But then I came here.
Tell me more about Dr. Jones.
If we were the only two in the room, he must have hit me. Joe?
I don't know.
Do you know what it's like in here at night? When they lock the door, they lock everything up. Everything. Including your thoughts. That shouldn't happen. It's not right.
Is that how you feel, that your thoughts have been locked up?
What have they done wrong? Do you know? Neither do I.
Well, Grace is in shock and frightened by not being able to remember. Now, we mustn't forget what it's like to be brought into a police station. The first time it happened to me, I was terrified, even though I was full of adolescent bravado and snakebite. We didn't call it snakebite then, but...
Were you traumatised?
So much so that I sobered up within 2 minutes.
They have solicitors, Dr. Aston.
And Grace Hale's amnesia is 10 times better than any solicitor.
So what does this mean for us?
The brain is like a landscape that has to be explored. You see pictures in travel brochures, yeah, and you think, I'd like to go there. And when you arrive, you recognise the place, but you don't know it. So what do?
Complain to the travel rep.
All right. Which gets you nowhere, right? So slowly you explore the hotel, the town, the beach, till it becomes familiar.
Sorry, Doc, I'm not with you.
All right, let's say the memory's a huge jigsaw puzzle. In this case, the jigsaw's been knocked over, with pieces everywhere, maybe some missing. Now, I'm trying to put the jigsaw back together, and it's very easy to try and jam the wrong piece in, especially when you're in a hurry. Now, tell me, have any of you got a feeling about this case?
Would that be feminine intuition or copper's nose, Dr. Aston?
Well, instinct, intuition, gut feeling, copper's nose. Still the brain working, drawn on experience, personal memory, and stories we've been told.
And it means nothing without hard evidence.
But that feeling might guide us to that hard evidence.
She's bright, Dr. Aston. Could this be a bluff?
I don't think so.
But it could be.
If she didn't do it, who did?
I'm afraid that's your problem.
I thought you were on our side, Dr. Aston.
I'm trying to help you establish what happened. And there was a violent confrontation, yeah?
Between Dr. Jones and Grace Hale.
With no forensic evidence, we can't be sure, can we? Now, I'd like to play you one more thing, if I may.
I come out of the clean room, stepped over the wall, I take off the gloves and then the mask. The gloves go in the incinerator bin along with the hat. I do the same with the shoe covers.
Are you always so methodical?
Yes.
Every time?
Yes.
Are the others?
I should think so.
Was there anyone else in the clean room?
There shouldn't have been.
The fact that she was so methodical in removing her overalls and that there was a physical confrontation is interesting.
But I understood that her overalls...
So how do you explain it, Doctor?
She could have been running away.
From what?
Someone.
Or something.
That she'd done.
Or seen. It might mean that she wasn't there when the incident happened.
So why the bruises?
I'll be interested to hear if she changes her story.
She won't.
What makes you so sure, Dr. Aston?
Because she hasn't got a story yet.
So, Dr. Aston, what can I say to the magistrates?
Tell them that I need to release her memory.
Oh, I like that.
And I need to keep walking round her brain.
Well, if I tell them that, she'll be released and you'll be locked up.
All right. I hope this has been of some use.
Oh, it has. Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Aston.
Thanks, Doc.
Well?
Could you tell DC Patton not to interrupt me, ma'am?
I had to.
We know
otherwise
that she didn't take her overalls off methodically. They were thrown all over the place. If she's told him otherwise, shouldn't he know?
We have to be very careful. If Dr. Aston knows too much, he may ask Grace leading questions.
Well, I thought he knew what he was doing.
He does. We have to disclose that we're using Dr. Aston, and if there's even the slightest suspicion that he's been used inappropriately, the case goes out the window.
Oh, we're not going to have a case at this rate.
We will if we don't blow it.
What do you mean by that?
All right, that's enough. Any more thoughts?
Yeah, well, that bit about everyone knowing that she was better than him. Well, those I interviewed reckon she was a bit full of herself.
Like Dr. Jones. Must have been hell working with those two. So, what are we saying?
At the moment, we're saying that he hit her, so she strangled him. Then she gets a kid off quick
and has a nice cup of coffee in the canteen.
It's possible. If she's lying.
Which is what I'm saying.
But we've got to be careful.
Decide on the spur of the moment that you had to work late. I wouldn't do it voluntarily. If I was working late, he must have told me to.
What did you say to him when he told you?
I might not have said anything, just bit my lip and got on with it.
I'd like to play something, Grace, and I'd like you to close your eyes and listen.
It's the clean room, so what?
Where would you be in relation to Dr. Jones?
Depends on what he's doing.
Describe where Dr. Jones would be in the clean room.
It depends on what he's doing.
What is he doing?
He's working. He's just working.
Would he be facing you? Would he have his back to you? Would he be
He's got his
moving
back
to
to me.
Right. And what's he doing?
I can't see.
So he's working as he normally works.
He shouldn't be doing it.
What's he doing, Grace?
I can't remember.
How do you feel about what he's doing?
I've said.
What have you said?
I've told him.
Could he have hit you because you've told him?
He just ignored me.
Is there anything you can do about that?
He shouldn't be in here.
Where should he be then?
Outside. I told him outside and he should have stayed outside, but he ignored me and now he's in here. He shouldn't be doing it.
Would you use force to stop him?
I've never hit anyone. Never. I'd never do that.
What would you do if someone hit you?
I don't understand why anyone would want to hit me. I'm very tired. All I want is to be in my own bed.
Okay. All right. It's just one thing, Grace. When you take off your overalls, are you always so methodical?
I've said, haven't I? I have.
Even when you're in a hurry?
Who said I was in a hurry? I've never said anything about being in a hurry.
Yeah, but we know that something must have happened in the clean room.
Oh, sometimes I wonder why I bother.
Dad used to ring us every week to tell us how bad Borough playing. And I'd tell him about Chelsea.
Chelsea? They're not a football team, they're a language school. Hey, so what do you think of the new stadium then?
That's all right.
Well, your dad never really took to it. He said it was like going to the Metro Centre, but without the atmosphere.
He went to the Metro Centre?
Aye, well, your mum made him. There's a race night here Wednesday. Do you fancy it?
Why not? So Dad went to the Metro Centre with Mum?
Aye, some of them did together, like Saturday night at the club.
A big night out, that's what you called it.
Aye, she was like most of the women. They came because the men came, and if they didn't come here, they would never go anywhere, except the Metro Centre.
She was in the ladies' darts team, and balls.
Night out that men approved of, but things have changed, for good or bad, things have changed.
One thing hasn't.
What's that?
Borough's still crap. What's this all about, Grace?
Don't you know?
No.
Why can't you remember? What is actually going to happen to me?
Well, that's not up to me.
Well, what is up to you? Do you know? Look, do I have to talk to you?
It might be helpful.
Well, it hasn't been so far, has it?
Sorry you think that.
I trusted you.
Look, I don't know what happened, Grace.
Oh, you know what happened.
No, I don't. But I would like you to tell me.
And then you'll go back to that copper and tell him what I've said, and then he'll twist it.
Dr. Aston, it's not as simple
I want to know what happened.
Once DC Patton gets here.
What's the point in me spending all this time getting...
All right, we'll sort it out.
I'm sorry, Karen, but I'm back at square one. Is that what you wanted?
No, of course not, but you must understand. Come in.
You wanted to see me, Mum?
Yes, we did.
Right.
Jeff, what did you say to Grace Hale when you re-interviewed her?
I asked her about leaving the clean room. She told Dr. Aston that she'd changed as normal, but the evidence contradicts that. All we're after is the truth, Dr. Aston.
What words did you use?
I can't remember.
Oh, that's convenient.
Look, I'm only
A mistake was made, now we should just try and
Trust has been broken, and that's worse.
By accident, Doctor. There's a dead body and a distraught family wanting an explanation. We're under pressure to solve this.
Well, so am I. You might think all eyes are on you, but they're on me. And a lot of those eyes want to see me fail. And I will fail if I'm not trusted to do what I'm supposed to do. I was beginning to get somewhere with Grace.
I'm sorry if I made an error of judgment.
Am I supposed to be part of a team here? You know, a team is supposed to be after the same thing.
And we are. All we want to know is who killed Dr. Jones.
Maybe you hope that I'll magic her memory back and then she'll confess to everything.
We just want the truth, Doctor. She could be protecting somebody.
There was nobody else in the room, Mum.
As far as we know.
Would she have anything to gain from his death?
Well, she thinks that she was better than him, so she may have thought...
we all think we're better than someone else.
Dr. Aston, my problem at the moment is that I need to ask the magistrates for a final extension.
And they don't trust trick cyclists.
They're not convinced it's scientific.
What is?
Forensic evidence.
As in the case of the Birmingham Six?
Oh, nobody's perfect, Dr. Aston.
Well, you know, don't expect me to be.
Sorry. I didn't mean to cause a problem. But I've not broken any rules.
I know.
Perhaps if we had a beer together, me and Dr. Aston.
Oh.
It's just a suggestion, Karen. But it might calm things down a bit.
Maybe we should all start smoking again.
You're playing the tape of the clean room again, so what?
I've said all along, Grace, that if you don't want to part...
Right. Magistrates know you're working with me, so if I stop now, it'll look as if I've got something to hide.
Not necessarily. Shall we start the story again? OK. Grace, is Dr. Jones coming out of the clean room?
No.
Where is he then?
I don't remember.
But you've been working with him?
Yes.
So where is he?
In the clean room.
Have you finished work?
No.
So why are you taking off your overalls?
The dish is on the floor.
The dish?
The Petri dish.
Where is it?
On the floor. It's broken. All that work in pieces on the floor.
So why is it on the floor?
I don't remember.
Has it been dropped?
I don't remember. I won't stop.
All right, Grace. OK. Thank you. Do you want one?
No.
Honey and lemon?
No.
I don't blame you. I've only got them because of my sore throat.
We couldn't go in the clean room if we had an infection. Germs, you see, bacteria.
This is from the football. It makes sense, doesn't it, not being allowed into the clean room if you had an infection?
I did it.
Did what?
I dropped the dish.
So, Grace, the dish is on the floor.
You're sucking a sweet.
That's right.
He shouldn't have been there.
Who?
He shouldn't have been in the clean room.
Who?
Take the sweet out of your mouth.
Is that what you said to Dr. Jones?
Outside the clean room.
Before you went in?
He shouldn't have gone in.
But he was working with you in the clean room.
Take the sweet out of your mouth. That's better.
Did Dr. Jones take the sweet out of his mouth?
Oh, he just looked at me.
What did you say?
Take the sweet out of your mouth.
Was this inside the clean room or outside?
I told you, outside. Take the sweet out of your mouth.
I have.
He had a sore throat.
So he shouldn't have been in the clean room?
No.
What did he do?
He went in.
What did you do?
I went in.
He was sucking a throat sweet, so you told him not to, and he ignored you.
He took the sweet out, I told you.
So he didn't ignore you?
Don't put the bloody sweet in your mouth, you prat! I said!
Oh, she went for you.
She was scared, Karen.
Of a sweet?
Well, she attacked Dr. Jones because of a throat sweet.
I don't know the sequence of events.
When you put the sweet in your mouth, she thought you were Dr. Jones.
When I put the sweet back in my mouth, it prompted her memory. I don't think she thought I was Dr. Jones.
So what did she think?
I think she was scared.
But not because she thought you were Dr. Jones. What did she say to you then? Did she call you Joe or did she call you Dr. Jones?
She called me, you bastard. And then she went for my throat.
Hang on. Did she go for him because he didn't do what she said? And then he hit her trying to protect himself?
Did she attack him? I don't know.
But she attacked you.
No. She went for me.
Oh, isn't that the same thing?
Not necessarily.
Are you sure?
So, what are you going to do now, Doctor?
I'm going to talk to her again.
Do you want someone in with you?
That won't be necessary.
I wouldn't be so sure, Doctor.
I knew who you were, Joe, but I didn't want you to put the sweet back in your mouth.
Why?
You'd get hurt.
Sucking a sweet?
Yes.
How?
I don't know.
Did Dr. Jones often eat sweets?
No.
But if he had a sore throat,
he shouldn't have gone in the clean room.
Mm-hmm. Close your eyes, Grace, and imagine that you're in the clean room.
That noise.
The clean room?
No.
What noise then?
That noise.
In the clean room?
Yes.
Describe the noise.
Shit.
You've opened your eyes.
You're sucking a sweet.
You can hear me sucking a sweet?
It's too noisy. I could see.
Well, what could you see?
His hands at his throat.
Whose hands?
His hands. Then I heard that noise.
But is it the truth?
She was trying to dislodge the sweet stuck in his windpipe. She failed. But by the time his body was found, the sweet had dissolved.
It's bizarre. Yes, but it's supported by the evidence, isn't it? Look at the lab reports. Traces of eucalyptus and incipient throat infection.
She's a clever woman.
So?
She could have taken the opportunity to kill him. She sees he's choking, right? So she goes across, puts her hands around his throat and makes sure he does choke. Neat.
Ah, but is it the truth?
I bet she's glad he's dead.
That doesn't make her a murderer. How is she, Doctor?
Relieved.
But not necessarily innocent.
Well, of course, she can't remember everything.
But she's remembered enough.
So it would seem. Does anyone fancy a drink later? If you do, give us a knock. I'll be writing up my notes.
And I'll see you first thing in the morning, Doctor.
Of course. See you later.
Well, thanks, everyone. If you could get your reports to me as soon as possible, I'd be grateful.
So, has Dr. Aston been a success, Mum?
Well, we know what happened.
We know what Grace Hale's been willing to tell us.
Which is all we have.
And all we're likely to get. Let's just say there's no case to answer.
A bit like Grace, then.
So no celebratory drink in the snug the coppers nothing, eh?
Not as far as I know. Anyway, the beer's cheaper here.
Aye, and we've had some good times here, eh? Christenings, weddings, birthdays and funerals are still talked about.
Aye.
And casualty mainly.
Why was every family party held here?
Right, because it was.
Right, the fuse has been fixed, so we'll be running the first race soon.
Your Auntie Jean was saying it'd be nice if you lived back here. Your Helen would like it.
I'm not sure she'd take to this place. Not like Mum.
You having a bet, then?
I'm still deciding.
Well, look, all you've got to do, study the card, the form, the conditions, then close your eyes and trust your luck.
A bit like psychology, then. No, somehow I can't see me and Helen sitting here on a Saturday night like Mum and Dad.
Ah, well, you see, they're like a good singer. One who sang the songs that brought back the dreams. We all did. All of us singing them dreams of whiskey, brown ale, whatever. Turn them into hangovers so they wouldn't hurt so much in the morning. See, you've moved out. On and up, and good for you. You've got brains, and you married a lass with brains. But you forget. We all forget. It's human nature, that. Hey, that lass you've been working with, she wanted to forget. Maybe not consciously, but still. She got banged on the head, we get pissed up, but the result's the same. Maybe it's no bad thing, eh?
And just to remind you, there's no standing on the chairs during the race.
So do you reckon he did a good job?
In fact, no standing on the chairs at any time.
I have no idea. I mean, nobody'd thank me.
Well, why should they? You've done your job, that's all. Yeah, you're like your mum. You're always wanting more. You should just make do.
Is that what Mum did with Dad? Made do?
Like us all. Like us all, your Dad couldn't give her all she wanted, and maybe she learned it was cruel to ask. It does Helen ask more of you than you can give her. I mean, if you don't know, I'd find out sharpish.
We're fine, you know, me and Helen, fine.
Aye, good. It's none of my business. It's just your Auntie Jean. Yeah. Well, you know what she's like. What happens, though, when that lass does remember everything? And what happens if it's different to what she said?
Do you know something, Tom? I've no idea. But you're not the only one who's asking the same question.
Ladies and gentlemen, bets are now closing for the first race from Walliger Park.
In The Recall Man by David Napthine, Dr. Joe Aston was played by Jeremy Swift, Grace Hale by Rosie Caballero, and Karen by Carolyn Pickles. Tom was Colin McLachlan, Jeff Paul Brennan, and Jane Sue Scott Davison. The director was Toby Swift.
Bern Gorman plays a detective investigating a brutal murder in 1980s London. He has little to go on except for the cassette diaries left by the victim, played by Toby Jones. Fragments of his life, recorded at different times, punch through into the present and supply the detective with elusive clues to the true nature of the man's fate.
He Died with His Eyes Open by Derek Raymond. Dramatised by Nick Perry. Part 1.
Sir?
What kept you?
That's left. Another go slow.
Christ. What was it this time? Asking him to work between tea breaks, wasn't he?
We found a body.
Bloke over there with your uniforms. Says he was walking home from the pub, nipped behind the edge for a slash, nearly fell over the geezer. Have a look.
What are your thoughts, sir?
Over time.
At first glance, I'd have said a derelict. His eyes were open. The surfaces peppered with the kind of grit that the wind hurls at you off London streets. Both his arms were broken, and one leg. His head had been battered in below the hairline, and his brains had slopped down his left cheek into the mud. His face, what was left of it, wasn't a strong face, but one that had seen everything and not made sense of it until it was too late. I'd seen plenty of violent deaths, but never anything worse than this one.
So what do you think?
I think they weren't joking.
More than one of them?
I'd say so, and they didn't do it here neither. There's hardly any blood under the body.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Probably not a robbery, then. It's systematic. They've worked him over, either for information or revenge. Then they dumped him.
Mint?
Oh, thanks. Anything on him?
The HSS papers. That's all.
Charles Loxley Allwins Staniland, born 12th of the 6th, 1931. Makes him 51.
Quite a moniker. Upper crust by the sound of it.
Crust on his uppers, more like. State of it.
Drinker. Got a drinker's nose.
Has a pathologist been?
Caught up in traffic. So's the ambulance. Bloody has left. Maggie wants to sort that lot out. Then the miners. I'm going back to the factory.
Already?
I've been in Acton 2 hours. It's long enough for anyone. You can have this one, all right? Not for serious crimes, isn't it?
Fine. What he meant was there was no glory in it. No promotion. No press conferences with the TV there. No national manhunt. For every one of that type of murder, there's a dozen others. Unimportant deaths of people who don't matter and never did. People like Stanland. Those are the cases we pick up at A14. The Department of Unexplained Deaths. That's why we're the most unpopular and shunned branch of the service. We do everyone else's dirty work, and they hate us for it.
Yes?
You got a moment?
Ah, Sergeant.
Charles Loxley Alwyn Stanland. Have you done the post-mortem yet?
I have, yes. You'd better come through. Stanland. Ah. Behold the man.
So what did he die of?
Everything. Fracture of the left kneecap, multiple fractures of the right tibia, bruising to the medulla, dislocation of the left shoulder, third and fourth ribs cracked on the same side. Somebody had a go with a knife, too. There's a long gash up his right arm, say a 12-centimetre blade, extensive bruising to the face. Most of his fingers were broken, so you might say they rather worked him over. But none of these things actually killed him.
So what actually did?
Blow to the head. Frontal lobe. See? Delivered with something like a builder's 2-pound hammer. A lump hammer, I think they call them. Mind you, he was in poor condition to begin with. Cirrhosis of the liver, emphysema. Maybe they did him a favour.
Think so, do you?
I'm joking, Sergeant. Just trying to lighten the mood on a dull winter's day.
Yeah, well, maybe one day you'll have your head smashed in and we can all have a good laugh about that too. What do you think?
Anything else I can do for you, Sergeant?
You can give me the time of death.
Our best guess would be between 6 p.m. and midnight on Friday the 16th. Okay.
See, the thing is, Davis, if you don't take murder seriously, then what do you take seriously? I headed back to the factory. If you want to know, it's the big concrete police station on Poland Street opposite Marks and Sparks. Covers the West End from Tottenham Court Road down to Trafalgar Square, from Marble Arch to Hyde Park Corner. The villains call it the factory, so we call it that too. Something to do with what goes on in the interrogation rooms, apparently.
Hold him up! I want to hear him say no comment again. Go away! Hell. I'll get it. Yes? What? Oh, you, what?
Warm in there, is it?
You what?
You seem to be sweating, sir.
What do you want, Sergeant?
I was wondering if your blokes had searched Stanley's flat.
Who?
Stanley. The murder victim. The body in Acton.
Is this what you interrupted me for? I thought we'd agreed it's a derelict death.
Well,
Look, just go and shuffle a few papers, fill in the forms, get down the pub like everyone else. I'll see you in there.
All respect, sir, but you know that's not my approach.
Yes.
I like to see justice, sir.
Justice? You're a Burke. You're 40, you're a sergeant, and you actually despise promotion. What the bloody hell was I thinking of? Biggest mistake of my career bringing you on. I thought you had potential. You're a prat.
So have they searched it or haven't they?
What do you think?
I'll go down there.
That's right. You're going to have your little séance. You do your thing, I'll do mine.
I took the 436 to Lewisham. The address on Stanland's DHSS papers. Romilly Place.
Lewisham, please. Clock tower end. Yeah. French, please, go. Thank you.
Highway type, please.
I read the paper on the way over. There was a load of stuff about Lady Diana being up the duff and some politician making a speech criticising everyone but himself. There was nothing about Staniland. Staniland wasn't news. Romilly Place is what you might call a clever area. The milkmen don't deliver and the coppers walk round in pairs. And there I was, all on my lonesome.
Hello there, this is number 23. Excuse me, boys. Sorry, can I get past?
Where are you going, mate? You don't live here.
I'm going to visit a friend.
Yeah, what friend?
He's going to visit Charlie, I bet you.
Oh, you know Charlie, do you?
He ain't home, mate.
Any idea where he is?
He ain't nowhere. He's been murdered.
Has he? How do you know that, then?
Just heard.
You're police, ain't you?
That's right, yeah.
You got some bollocks walking down the street on your own.
Did you know Charlie, then?
Not really. He was just some old pisshead, wasn't he?
Oi, copper. I said you've got some front coming down here.
Yeah, why is that, then?
This is a no-go area.
Is that right?
Yeah. And what's so funny?
Oh, come on. Turn it up, Scar.
But Scar had a knife in his hand. I hate knives. Hate them worse than guns. I didn't think he'd try anything, but there was something about his eyes that looked wrong, and then he just came in fast with it. I tried blocking his arm, but the blade cut straight through my anorak and nicked the skin. So I leaned in and stamped very hard on his right instep. He fell backwards onto the doorstep and winded himself. And while he was writhing around and trying not to cry, I picked up the knife.
One more squeak out of you and I'll come back with a van load of my mates from the SPG. You understood? Now clear off, go on. Get off the street, go home.
Staniland's door had been forced, which saved me the trouble, as I'd rather suspected the little shits had been in there before me, but I doubt if they'd found anything worth nicking. Staniland's room was one of the most putrid I'd ever seen. It stank. The walls ran with damp. The floor was carpeted with bottles, unwashed dishes, filthy clothes, uneaten food, books. Poetry, mainly. Neruda, Eliot, Milton, and cassettes. Boxes of them.
What the hell brought you to this dump, Charlie?
The light by the bed had been left on. Next to the light was a cassette player, with one of those little microphones attached. I pressed play, and I knew straight away the voice was Staniland's.
I took the night ferry to France. The moment I got back to Douai-Jour, first thing I did was burn all my daughter's clothes, all her books and toys that had been left behind. It was the cost of my failure as a father and a man. I drank cold wine from the bottle while the fire burned, destroying our past for us, my daughters and mine.
What are you doing?
Oh, God.
Oh, whining into that bloody tape recorder again.
Please, Barbara.
Oh, I don't want my voice on it.
Where have you
Sorry, I said turn it on.
Where have you been all Sunday night? I hate Barbara Spark. How can anyone so beautiful be so bloody? She laughed at me the last time I tried to make love to her. Oh, God, you're a clown, Charlie. 51 years old and behaving like a love-struck schoolboy.
I opened the drawer of the bedside cabinet and found more tapes. And there were more inside shoe boxes under the bed, and loose ones scattered around the room.
I had another bad night in the Agincourt. The laughing cavalier was in as usual. What the hell Barbara sees in him, I just don't know. He's got a face like a lorry driver who wants to overtake everything on the road. His great white forearms like joints of uncooked meat with revolting orange hairs sort of getting out of them. Oh, God, he's repulsive. And yet she lets him put his arms around her and nuzzle her and make lewd suggestions to her right in front of me. Barbara says I should do something about it if it bothers me. Oh, maybe I will.
Is that thing on?
No.
You know what I used to like? When we just used to lie here in the dark, not touching, side by side looking up at the ceiling, and you tell me things.
Yes, but I can't not touch you. God, that's a bit worse than not having you here. I have to touch you. Barbara.
All right. Come on then. Let's see what you can do. It'll keep you quiet.
Listen, you know what I really like now is a cuddle.
You better get yourself a teddy bear then.
It's just that I'm pretty frightened of life at the moment.
I lay back on his bed, stared upwards into the dark, trying to focus on Stanislav, trying to imagine him walking, upright and alive, without his injuries.
Unhook the delicate lace of flesh. Detach the heart with a single cut. Unhinge the ribs. Take down the long dress of muscle from the bones. And pause to boil the knives.
And I suppose I must have fallen asleep, because the next thing I knew there was a woman standing at the foot of the bed looking down at me. At least I think there was. She was only there for a moment, then she was gone. I mean, for all I know, I dreamt it. And by the time I dragged myself upright and gone downstairs to the street, she was gone. If she'd ever been there in the first place. So I washed my face, got some breakfast at the local Greasy Spoon.
Say to please, boss. Do you know a pub round here called the Agincourt?
Agincourt, yeah. Henry of Agincourt. It's down there on Greenwich Lane.
Okay.
Thanks.
The Henry of Agincourt pub, as you might imagine, was a concrete bunker with medieval wooden beams painted on the front, surrounded by low-rise council flats.
Morning.
We're not open.
Oh, sorry. The door was open, so I just came in.
Well, you can just go out again, can't you?
OK, but I was hoping you'd be able to answer a few questions first.
Are you police?
That's right. Here's my warrant card.
Shit. Look, if it's about last night...
It's not about last night. What happened last night?
Oh, nothing. Bit of a dust-up, that's all. Nothing out of the ordinary for this place.
I can believe it. So you're the governor here, are you?
I am indeed.
Do you know a man named Charles Stanislav? I gather he was one of your regulars.
To be honest, I don't usually know people by their second names.
I see. Well, he was found dead yesterday. Here's his photo. But I warn you, it was taken in the mortuary.
Jesus Christ.
Do you recognise him?
Yeah, that's Charlie. Sorry, when you said Charles, I didn't quite...
when did you last see him?
A while back. 3 or 4 days, I reckon.
He liked to drink, did he?
What, Charlie? Not half. Christ, I made a right mess of him, didn't I?
They?
Yeah, I mean, whoever done that.
Any idea who it might have been?
Me, nah.
Do you have enemies, as far as you're aware, among your customers, for example?
Well, I mean, who wouldn't in a place like this?
Yeah, anyone in particular?
Look, the thing about Charlie is he didn't really fit in round here, if you know what I mean. Like, when he'd had a drink, he'd start ranting on in his posh voice and got up some people's noses. I've had to bar him on more than one occasion.
Anyone dislike him enough to kill him?
No. Nothing like that.
What about the Laughing Cavalier?
The what?
The ginger bloke, big, loud, fancies himself with the birds. Charlie called him the Laughing Cavalier.
Doesn't ring any bells.
Orange hairs on his forearms. You must know him.
Look, let me tell you something, Sergeant. I run a tight house here.
Then it'd be a shame, wouldn't it, if the boys over at Lewisham decided to come down here one night and get everyone to empty their pockets. It's bad for business, that kind of thing.
OK, look, what exactly do you want?
Charlie's girlfriend, what was her name?
You mean Barbara?
Barbara what?
Spark.
Good. Better. Describe her.
Blonde, nice figure, tits.
Good looking?
Cool, yeah, not half. Punching above his weight there, Charlie was.
Who's the Laughing Cavalier?
No. Look, please.
What's his real name?
I can't do it, Governor. On my life, I can't. Ask someone else. He's well known in these parts.
All right. Just tell me this and I'll go. What does he do for a living?
He's a builder.
A blow to the head, delivered with something like a builder's £2 hammer. A lump hammer.
Bowman.
Sir, I'm going to need some assistance. Seems that Stoneland kept some kind of diary on cassette tapes. His flat's full of them, so could you send a couple of blokes over to pick them up? They'll need cardboard boxes.
Cardboard boxes?
Yeah, or plastic bags. There's a lot of them. And if they got time, when they get back to the factory, maybe they could start listening to them and noting down anything that might be of interest.
Yeah, OK, fine. Listen, Well, you caught me a bad moment yesterday.
Right. Is that all, sir?
Yeah.
Got a letter today from my brother, so-called. He refuses point blank to help me. Not that I've actually asked for anything, but he just panics the moment I appear on his doorstep. I can see it in his eyes. He knows that by rights he should look out for me, but he knows that if he did, his wife would flay him alive.
I was following up every name on the tapes, so I went to visit Stoneland's brother, so-called. He was his next of kin, after all. It wasn't difficult to find him, as unlike Barbara Spark, he was in the phone book. The address was a nice little bit of listed property on Canonbury Square. Must have cost a bloody fortune. Charlie, I thought, you came from money.
Yes?
Police. Does Mr. Grampian Stoneland live here?
Yes, he does.
Could I speak to him?
Could I help? I'm his wife.
Well, it's concerning his brother Charles.
Oh, God, what's he been up to now? I suppose you'd better come in. Could you put your cigarette out first, please?
Of course.
Grampian? Grampian, there's a policeman here who would like to speak to you. Please, go through to the living room.
Thanks. Blimey. You wouldn't have to be of the antiques trade, would you?
It's my husband's private collection. He inherited most of it from his family.
They must have needed a castle to house this lot.
They had one.
Officer, Grampian Stoneland. Good evening to you.
It's about Charles.
Oh, no. What's he gone and done now?
Well, I'm afraid he's gone and died.
Good God. Whatever of?
He was murdered.
Doesn't surprise me in the least. Not in the least.
Oh, Lord. Oh, dear. Do you know who did it?
No, not yet. That's what I'm trying to find out.
Well, I rather doubt that we can be of any assistance. I'm afraid there was very little contact between Charles and ourselves in recent years.
Apart from this letter, which I found in his flat.
What letter is that?
It's dated, about 6 weeks ago.
From me, is it?
Yeah. I'll read a bit, shall I? Might jog your memory. Dear Charles, I've thought it over and regretfully decided there isn't the slightest use in your coming over here and expecting any sympathy from us now. You chose a particular way of life, and it seems you're paying the consequences. It's simply unreasonable of you to expect us to foot the bill. Even if I gave you the money, you would only fritter it away on drink or one of those awful women you get so hooked on. I'm sorry you've come to this pass, old boy. I would do something if I could, but my own business is in difficulties and at times I hardly know where to turn. Betty sends her love. That's you, is it, Betty?
Yes, although I don't recall actually sending my love.
And as you can see, he's written the single word crap on it. Just here at the bottom. That is his handwriting, isn't it?
Yes.
I wonder if we oughtn't perhaps to ring our solicitor, Grampian.
Oh, I'm sure that won't be necessary. That won't be necessary, will it, officer?
No, I shouldn't have thought so. Unless you think it might be. And do you think it might be?
No, good grief, no. Not at all.
Lots of clocks.
Yes.
What would this one be worth, for example?
The bracket clock, it's Victorian, good condition at auction, perhaps 8,000?
I'm not sure I see the relevance of that.
I imagine that when you inherited all this gear, your brother was left something too?
Oh, yes, yeah, oh, yes.
So he was quite well off at one stage?
Yes, at one stage. Not cash, of course. Some equities, a few antiques.
So what happened to it all?
Well, it's quite complicated, really, but actually I've got most of it here.
Ah. And how did that come about?
Well, you see, Charles, he lived a fairly nomadic existence and he never really had any idea about money. Never really had any money, so...
So you offered him cash for the lot?
Yeah. Hell of a job I had raising it, too. Interest rates sky high.
What was the sum involved?
Well, that's a private matter, I rather fear.
Oh, I'm sorry, is that an embarrassing question?
No, it's not embarrassing. Why would it be?
Well, it might be if you've stiffed your own brother, mightn't it?
Bloody cheek.
No, Betty, please. Now, look here, you may be a policeman, but you can't simply march into someone's home and start asking
detestable. Who is your chief
How much,
constable?
Mr. Stanley, and how much did you pay him? We can continue this at the station if you prefer.
Of course. Well, now, let me see, it was something in the region of £30,000, I should say.
30 grand?
Yes.
I used to work in the robbery squad, Mr. Stanley, and looking around at this little lot, I'd say you got something of a bargain.
How dare you?
Betty.
Are you just going to stand there and put up with this?
Well, what exactly would you like me to do? Sit down?
Oh, don't be ridiculous.
What did he do with the money, your brother?
I really have absolutely no idea.
Spent it, most likely.
On what?
Drink, women.
He had a place in France. A wreck of a place, by all accounts. Douai. He dragged his wife and daughter off there to live some kind of bohemian lifestyle, but of course you need money to do that, and that's when he came racing back to me.
And his daughter, she died, did she?
Died? No, I don't think so. Good grief, no. They left him. I think they'd had enough of shivering in the Dordogne or wherever it was, so they walked out on him. About the only sensible decision that woman ever made, the stupid little tart.
You didn't get on?
No, we didn't. But that's not what I meant, is it, Grampian?
Betty.
What did you mean?
Tell him.
Please.
I mean, she was a prostitute, a whore.
Well, she was a clip girl. She worked at night.
Ask him how he knows.
Now, Betty, oh, girl.
Now. He paid her for service.
The fact is, I met Margot in a club in Soho.
He spent £1,000 of my money on her. £1,000! The dirty old goat, look at him. Can you imagine any woman sleeping with that unless it paid her? Because I can't.
And did your brother know anything about this?
No.
Was he running her?
Good Lord, no. But, I mean, I suppose I hoped, well, that he would benefit from some of the money I paid.
You dirty, filthy, disgusting old man.
Oh, Betty, really?
Right, I think I'd better be going. Thank you. Thanks for the time.
I'll see you out. I do apologise for my wife's behaviour. She's rather highly strung.
I can hear you, Grampian!
You wouldn't happen to have an address for Margot, would you?
Well, last time I saw her, she was living in Fulham. It's Callow Street, number 34. It's Bottom Bell.
Grampian! Grampian!
Yes, all right, I'm coming.
It was dark when I left. Too late to call on Margot. I decided to go back to the factory. There was still a lot of tapes to get through. As I headed for the tube station, I noticed a man on the other side of the road peel himself off the wall he was leaning on. He was still behind me when I went down the escalator to the Victoria line. I was being followed.
In He Died with His Eyes Open by Derek Raymond, the detective is played by Bern Gorman. Staniland is Toby Jones. Barbara, Tanya Franks. And Bowman is Ben Crow. Grampian is played by Michael Burtonshaw. Betty, Christine Absalom. The landlord, Sean Murray. The pathologist, Ed Thorpe. And Scar is Will Howard. He Died with His Eyes Open is dramatised by Nick Perry. The director is Sasha Yevtushenko.
And Court Drama now on Radio 4 as we return to a new dramatisation of Derek Raymond's He Died with His Eyes Open. The detective is investigating a brutal murder in 1980s London. He has little to go on except for the cassette diaries left behind by the victim, with Ben Gorman and Toby Jones.
He Died with His Eyes Open by Derek Raymond. Dramatised by Nick Perry. Part 2.
Most people live with their eyes shut, but I mean to die with mine open. The question is how? How to do it consciously and deliberately. How to plan it up to the last moment and record everything.
On the second day of the investigation, I was sitting at my desk in room 205, the Department of Unexplained Deaths, listening to the voice of Charles Loxley Olwyn Staniland, deceased, trying to decide if it was murder or suicide I was dealing with.
What am I going to do about my stepson? I can't go on giving him money I haven't got anymore. I've got Charlotte to think of, too. She's my flesh and blood when it comes down to it. Eric isn't. Oh, but he still thinks I'm a pushover, and he's bloody ruthless, despite appearances. It's the heroin, I suppose.
Eric what?
Morning.
Morning, sir.
You in early? You've been here all night, haven't you?
There's a lot to get through.
What exactly is it about this case, Sergeant?
I'm not sure what you mean, sir.
You've been up all night listening to some old fart rattling on about how he stuck his head up his arse to work out what he had for breakfast. I took one of the tapes home with me. It's bollocks.
Someone's got to listen to him.
No, they haven't.
It's evidence in a murder inquiry.
So what you found out then? Go on, enthrall me.
Staniland had a stepson called Eric. Eric's a smackhead, apparently. According to Staniland's bank manager, he countersigned a couple of cheques from Staniland, quite large ones.
So is he a suspect?
He could be, yeah.
Then bring him in.
No, I'd rather talk to him first.
Talk to him? Don't talk to smackheads. You smack them. In the head. That's why they're called smackheads.
Yeah, well, the problem is I don't have his address. I've got his mother's, so I'll get round there now and see what I can find out.
When you going to sleep, Sergeant?
When I'm dead, sir. What I wanted to say to Bowman, what he never would have understood in a month of Sundays, was that although Staniland had died at 51, he still had the naive desire to understand everything that one normally associates with a child. And it was this fragile sweetness at the core of people that moved me. If we allowed that to be kicked, smashed and splintered, then we had no society at all of the kind that I felt that I had to uphold. I took the 137 to Chelsea. Callow Street was short. I found number 34, bottom bell.
Yes?
Mrs. Staniland?
Who?
Margot Staniland?
Oh, wait.
Wait.
Hello.
I don't think I know you.
Police.
Oh, have I done something?
No, I was just hoping to have a word.
Of course. Please come in. Sorry, it's just that hardly anyone calls me Mrs. Staniland anymore.
But I'm right in thinking you were married to Charles Staniland, Charles Loxton?
Yes, I was.
Well, I'm afraid I have some bad news.
He's dead, isn't he?
Yes, I'm sorry.
And I think that he was murdered.
What makes you say that?
Why else would you be here? When did it happen?
We found him on Friday.
Where?
In Acton. I don't know how much you want to know.
Everything.
He'd been beaten to death and dumped behind a hedge. Why or by who, we don't know. And that's what I'm trying to find out.
I see.
Do you have any idea who might have done that to him?
Where do I begin?
He had enemies?
By God, did he? Do you know the term gobshite?
Yeah.
That's what Charles was. He talked too much, loved to talk. I think that's why he spent his life in pubs. It wasn't just the booze, it was having an audience. He'd talk to anyone and everyone, but at some point he'd go too far and end up getting his head kicked in the toilets or in the bloody car park. I say, you wouldn't happen to have a fag on you, would you?
Yeah, certainly.
Thank you. People don't much like to hear the truth about themselves, do they?
And is that why you left him?
No, not at all. I found it quite exciting, in actual fact, the way he could get under a person's skin.
So, why did you leave him?
Oh, no money. No money, never any money. And as soon as he did get any, he gave it away. It was ridiculous. He was pathologically generous.
And where did this money come from that he gave away?
Inheritance, mostly.
How much?
I don't know exactly, but it was a lot. He sank a load of it into our house in France. The rest he gave away. Every penny.
Who to?
Oh, waifs and strays. Anyone who smelt it on him and said they needed it.
It was a soft touch.
The softest. He was the kindest man I've ever been with. And I have been with a lot of men. Oh, God. What am I going to tell Charlotte? She always said he'd come back.
Take my handkerchief.
Will you let me have him? When you've finished with him, I want to bury him. At least let me do that for him. I have some money in the post office. I can prove it. I've got the book somewhere. I'll show you.
Mrs. Stoneland, I want to ask you about your son.
My son?
Yeah. I was just wondering, these waifs and strays that your husband helped out, was Eric one of them?
Well, yes, I suppose he was in a way. He was good to Eric, really. Awfully good, considering he wasn't his own flesh and blood. I mean, most people take against Eric. He has his demons, you see.
He's a drug addict.
Well, if you want to put it like that.
Where would I find Eric? I should pay him a visit, really.
Well, you won't be hard on him, though, will you?
No, of course not.
You're a policeman. You give me your word.
I give you my word. You have my word.
The last time we were in touch, he was living in Soho, in a squat in Petworth Street, just off Berwick Street Market.
was in Berwick Street Market that I had that feeling of being followed again. I'd stopped to make a phone call on the corner of Derby Street, and I noticed someone I'd noticed before.
Hello, serious crime?
Hovering in a doorway. I spoke to the collator at my neck and found out Eric had done time. 18 months for possession at the Scrubs.
Right.
He wouldn't have enjoyed that.
Thanks.
A boy from his background.
Right.
Afternoon, sir. Looking for a nice girl?
No, thanks. Police. Any idea who lives upstairs?
Yeah, druggies. Junkies. It's disgusting. Look at the mess they leave. They want locking up. Excuse me.
Eric! Eric! Who is it? Police! Open the door, Eric, or I'll kick it down. Stop coming here, it's a legal squat. Turn that racket off. What did you do that for? I asked you to turn it off, didn't I? That's criminal damage. You'll bloody well pay for that.
Don't be daft now, it matches everything else in here.
Funny. Look, I'm laughing.
Yeah, just sit down, shut up.
You can't tell me what to do.
Well, I just did to do it.
Let's see your search warrant.
All right, here's your choice. You can sit down and shut up, or I'm arresting you for possession of a Class A controlled substance.
I'm not holding.
What's this then?
Oh, Jesus, it's not mine.
Huh? Whose is it?
How should I know? I'm not the only person living here.
Do you want to go back inside, Eric? Do you want to go back in this scrub?
No. Let's just calm down, okay?
You're the boss. Now go and put some bloody clothes on, for God's sake. I don't know where to look.
Okay.
You should phone your mother. She worries about you.
You've been speaking to my mother?
Yes.
What about?
Well, that's what I'm here to tell you.
What's happened?
Sit down. It's about your stepfather, Charles Dunlad.
What about him?
He's dead.
So?
What do you mean, so?
I mean, you know, people die. So what? He was old, wasn't he?
He was 51.
Well, there you go.
You don't seem that surprised, Eric.
Why should I be? I mean, it was on the cards, wasn't it?
Was it?
Yeah. The way he drank. He had that streak, you know, that self-destructive streak.
He didn't self-destruct, Eric. Someone beat him to death. More than one person, in fact. Look, here's this picture from the mortuary.
Jesus Christ.
You know anything about it?
What about that? Oh. No, wait, what? Why would I know anything about it?
So it's come as a complete shock.
Yeah, of course it has.
Right. Can you tell me about the money?
What money?
The money your stepfather gave you, the cheques.
What cheques?
The cheques you countersigned.
I honestly have no idea what you're talking about.
Lying comes naturally to you, doesn't it, Eric? Some people have a gift for music, but with you it's lying.
Look, if you're trying to fit me up,
we have traced them, Eric. A cheque for £500 and another for £300, both countersigned by you. So stop lying and tell me. What'd you do with the money? You spend it on heroin?
Yes. Are you going to arrest me?
Well, I ought to. You didn't like your stepfather much, did you? No matter what he'd done for you.
He didn't like me much either.
Well, he must have for a bit, otherwise he wouldn't have given you that 800 quid, would he? Pretty well cleaned him out, didn't you?
Well, if I did, I didn't know what I was doing. He never said I was.
How'd you get the money out of him, Eric?
What do you mean, get it out of him? I told him I needed it, so he let me have it.
Soft touch, was he? Your mother said he was.
Look, he offered me the money. He was concerned about me.
You know, Eric,
about
listen, I'm beginning not to be very fond of you because you're lying to me. Because what you really said to me was, give me your money, old man, or I'll smash your bloody face.
That's ridiculous.
You knew he couldn't afford it, so you made his life hell until he went to the bank to raise it.
That's a lie.
What I really want to know is who you took with you.
What do you mean who I took with me? I didn't take anyone with me.
I think you did, Eric.
I didn't.
See, I don't believe you could have done something like that on your own.
Well, you'll have to, because I did.
OK, so how hard did you hit him, Eric? To start with, when he told you he couldn't give you the money?
Just a slap, I don't know.
It's a couple of slaps, so you give him a slap. You start pushing him around, you're thinking, well, this is easy, so you give him another push. The stupid old git just refuses to give in, so you get really annoyed, you get really bloody annoyed, and you pick something up, and before you knew it, you've done that to him. Look at the picture.
Oh, please.
That is what happened, isn't it?
No, it wasn't like that. Look at me. How would I have the strength to do something like that to him?
Thank you. And who did? Eric?
They'll kill me. You don't know what they're like.
I can protect you. I promised your mother.
I'm not going back inside.
And tell me this. Was one of them a man and one of them a woman? Just nod.
Please, I can't.
Where'd you meet them? Was it a pub?
The Agincourt.
Okay. Now listen to me, Eric. I'm very, very serious. Don't tell them I've been to see you. Don't even mention it to them. Do you understand me?
Sure.
Because what they did to your stepfather, they will happily do to you, all right?
Mm-hmm.
If you need any help, just ring this number and let me know where I can find you. I promised your mother I'd look out for you, and I'm a man of my word.
Right.
You should go and see her, you know. You know where she lives, don't you? She's concerned about you.
It was time to go and see the Laughing Cavalier. It was getting dark when I arrived in Greenwich. As soon as I walked into the Agincourt, I knew which one he was. Face like a lorry driver who wants to overtake everything on the road. Forearms like joints of uncooked meat with revolting orange hairs spraying out of them. Stanland's description was a good one.
This is a white area, this is NF controlled.
Hello there. Sorry to interrupt. Please. I was wondering if any of you chaps knew a bloke called Charles Stanland? Charlie? Posh bloke, by all accounts, used to drink in here. Middle-aged, sort of wasted.
Yeah, we all knew Charlie. What's happened to him?
I'm sorry to say he's been murdered. His body was found over Acton Way on Friday night. A couple of pictures here.
Oh dear. It looks like he was hit by a truck.
Actually, he was beaten to death with a hammer.
Ooh, nasty.
A lump hammer. The kind that builders use.
Well, he must have got right up someone's nose then, eh?
Looks like it, doesn't it? What's your name, mate?
Harvey Fenton.
Private word, Harvey.
What for?
Let's just say you fit description.
Anything you got to say, you can say in front of my associates.
Your associates? What, this lot?
Yeah.
Okay. Suit yourself. I believe you know a woman called Barbara Spark.
Babsy? Yeah, I know her. Everyone knows her.
She and Stanland was something of an item.
If you say so.
She was Stanland's bird.
So what if she was?
I heard you screwed her.
Who told you that?
Stanland. He kept a diary.
Well, he was wrong. I didn't.
Oh, right. Turned you down, did she?
Yeah, I didn't give it a chance soon, mate.
Why not? Are you a homosexual, Harvey?
A what?
Only I heard that she's a highly fanciable woman, so I'm assuming if you didn't fancy it, you must be a homosexual.
She's a brass, mate, and I don't pay for it.
You short of money, Harvey?
Who isn't?
Robert Maxwell.
Yeah, well, I ain't Robert Maxwell, am I?
A few hundred might have come in handy.
What's that got to do with anything?
Stanland had money.
No. Look. Let's have it right. Stanleyland was a knacker. All right, he was posh and all that, but he was a knacker. Never had two pennies to rub together. You ask the governor here. Always trying to run up a tab or punch drinks up at people, eh? Waster, mate. Total waster. I'm telling you. Whoever done Charlie, never done him for his money.
Right.
Was that it?
Yeah. I'll leave you and your associates to enjoy the rest of your evening together.
Thanks.
Oh, and any idea where I might find Babsy? Barbara, whatever you call her?
Yeah, she works the clubs up west. Soho, round there. Clipping mainly. Try the 84. You tell her I said hello.
Bowman.
Sir?
Yes. What do you want?
Does the name Harvey Fenton mean anything to you?
Yeah. Scumbag, why?
He's a suspect in the Stanland case. Seems he was knocking off Stanland's girlfriend.
Well, you want to be careful. He's violent. Done time for ABH. Building contractor, as I recall.
Yeah. I think he killed Stanland with a hammer.
Have you got the hammer?
No.
Well, you better find it then, ain't you?
I want to speak to the girlfriend first, before Fenton gets to her. He says she works the clubs up west, clipping. I'm heading up that way now. The 84 was an illegal drinking club just off Old Compton Street that managed to stay open by paying kickbacks to the Vice Squad.
Can I help you, Jack?
My name isn't Jack.
I know that, mate. Just being friendly.
I'm looking for a girl called Babsy. Blonde. Her second name's Spark. Mean anything to you?
She'll be in later, I expect.
Maybe I could wait.
Are you a member, Jack?
Nah, but I believe my membership's pending. Perhaps I could come in on a temporary?
I'm sure that could be arranged.
Father cover it.
Do go through to the bar, sir.
Thanks.
Evening, sir. What can I get you?
Ring-a-ding, please. Leave the bowl.
Can you manage that bottle all on your own?
I don't know. Maybe you could help.
Thanks very much. I'm Babsy. But I don't seem to know you at all. What's your name?
The moment I met Barbara Spark, I understood what Stanland had gone through with her. Smoke?
Oh, tell.
She was tall and blonde, with good legs, but she crossed as she sat on the bar stool next to me. Nearly every man in the club was looking at her. But at that moment, she only had eyes for me. Jet black eyes, under lazy eyelids.
You do the clubs here a lot?
A bit.
Funny, I don't seem to know you then. I know most of the regulars.
I'm not regular.
Why were you asking for me then?
Someone said I should.
Who?
Does it matter? He was right.
Why, what did he say?
That you were bloody gorgeous.
Why, thank you, kind sir.
I could easily fancy you. Very easily.
Oh dear, look, I'm blushing.
I realise now what Stanland had meant. There was something coarse and creamy in her that enveloped you if you were open to it. I must admit I was feeling rather open.
Babsy! Babsy?
Not now, Dave.
Come on, Babs. Come and dance with me. Come on.
I said get lost, get on, do one! Can't you see I'm busy? Derek, get this clown away from me, will you?
Oh, come on, sir. You heard what the lady said.
Don't get your knickers in a twist. Don't get your stinking knickers.
That's right, go and jog on, you sight!
All at once I was Stanland in the Agincourt. No, not Stanland, I was the other one. I was the laughing cavalier. I was Harvey Fenton, watching Babsy kick the wind out of the less favoured suitor.
Sorry about that. Look, why don't we go somewhere else?
Yeah, I'd like to, but, I don't know, it's late, I'm not working.
Well, you're joking, aren't you?
No, it's an early start.
So what was all this about then?
Or what?
You come in here looking for me, you get me all worked up, and then you say you're going home? Well, bollocks to that. Don't you dip work then?
No, it works.
So what's your problem?
All right, look, if it keeps you happy, how far is it to your place?
Don't do me any favours. We said we were going to my place anyway.
Well, we're not going to mine, it's a dump.
What do you do for a living?
Civil service.
I thought they paid well.
They do. My ex gets most of it.
Right. New Cross it is, then.
OK. Let's get a cab. I snogged her in the back of the cab and put my hand up her dress. It seemed to be what she expected. All the time I could feel Staniland's eyes burning into me. I heard his voice whispering into my ear.
Barbara will do anything for or to anybody, because it doesn't matter to her what she does.
That's far enough, driver.
And it intrigues her in a remote sort of way.
Just here will do.
Watching me struggle with the impossible.
What do I owe you, mate?
Like a wasp in a glass of beer.
Yeah.
She lived on the 18th floor with a view of all the other tower blocks on the Milton Court estate. It looked pretty at night, with all the sodium lights.
Nice place.
Yeah, I'm not here much. Like a drink?
What have you got?
Vodka.
I'll have vodka then. So, where are you when you're not here?
Oh, out and about, you know. Doing the rounds. I'm a party girl, me. I like to party.
So I gather. Cheers.
Cheers. Come on, let's go on the balcony. I'll show you the view.
Okay.
So are you going to tell me who it was who recommended me?
Oh, just some bloke in a pub.
Which pub?
The Agincourt, Greenwich Lane. Know it?
Who was the bloke?
If I knew his name, I'd tell you. He was a tall fella. It's quite posh. Ring any bells?
No. When was this?
10 days ago, something like that. Why are you so interested?
If someone's talking about me, I like to know who it is.
Well, don't worry, I only said nice things.
How did the subject come up?
Oh, I don't know. I think I happened to mention that I hadn't had any since my wife left me. It was about a year ago. That's when he suggested looking you up.
What did he say about me?
He said you were worth every penny.
I see.
So, is the meter running?
Yeah, it's running.
All right, come on in. I'm not paying waiting time.
You really know how to sweep a girl off her feet, don't you?
She was shy when it came to going to bed. I followed her inside and started to undress her, but she pushed me away and went into the bathroom. I should have left there and then. I had to remind myself I was a copper investigating a murder. I'd chosen to walk in Staniland's footsteps in the hope that they might lead me to his killer, and I knew it was a foolish and risky course of action. If Bowman knew where I was and what I was doing, he'd have me back in uniform in the blink of an eye. But I liked the way she looked. I liked the way her dress clung to her. And when she came out of the bathroom, my body felt no scruples about it. That's all.
In He Died with His Eyes Open by Derek Raymond, the detective is played by Bern Gorman. Staniland is Toby Jones, Barbara, Tanya Franks, and Bowman is Ben Crow. Fenton is Jamie Foreman, Margot, Prianga Burford, Eric, Will Howard, and other parts are played by Sean Murray and Michael Burtonshaw. He Died with His Eyes Open is dramatised by Nick Perry. The director is Sasha Yevtushenko.
Cult drama now on Radio 4 as we return to our dramatisation of Derek Raymond's He Died with His Eyes Open. The case of a brutal murder has left the detective consumed by empathy, and he has willfully walked the same self-destructive path as the victim, even entering into an affair with the deadly ex-girlfriend. With Bern Gorman, Toby Jones and Tanya Franks.
He Died with His Eyes Open by Derek Raymond. Dramatised by Nick Perry. Part 3.
I woke up on Staniland's bed in his putrid little flat in Lewisham. As I opened my eyes, I saw Barbara Sparks standing over me, and in her hand was a knife, and her face was twisted with hatred. And then Harvey Fenton came in, all smiles, and stood next to her with a hammer in his hand. And as they started to lay into me, I raised my arms to cover my head. And that's when I woke up.
It's okay, you're with me. You're with Babsy, you were dreaming.
Oh, Christ, sorry.
You're in a bad dream, that's all.
Jesus, did I wake you?
No, it's okay. I weren't sleeping. I was watching you.
Were you?
Yeah. What were you dreaming about?
I don't know. Can't remember.
Well, it must have been pretty scary from the way you were going on.
Yeah, I've gone.
Everyone's like that. I wake up feeling absolutely bloody terrified, and I don't know why. I don't know what of. All I remember is the feeling, dread, I suppose you'd call it. Like something terrible's going to happen to me, something really ghastly. Sometimes I'm too scared to go to sleep.
Sorry to hear that. Come here, let me comfort you.
Oh, hello.
So meter's still running, is it?
No. Meter's off.
The knife in the dream. The knife Barbara Spark had been holding. It was the knife I'd taken from the kid who tried to stab me outside Staniland's flat. A survival knife. I remembered waking up the next morning on Staniland's bed and a woman looking down at me. She had the light behind her, but it could have been Babsy. I don't remember the knife in her hand, it all happened too fast. But she could have picked it up. It was a useful looking knife. And if she had, maybe she'd hung on to it. In the morning I got up while she was still asleep and searched for it. And all of a sudden I felt pretty shabby, to be honest, going through her kitchen cupboards. This woman I'd just screwed in the pursuit of a criminal investigation. It would have been so easy for me to drop the case on Staniland, to let it drift away unsolved. Who'd care? No one. And that was the problem for me. That's why I knew I could never do it.
Looking for something?
Christ.
Someone's got a guilty conscience?
I was going to make breakfast. Don't want to wake you.
Thinking of slipping away, were you?
No, of course not.
I'll put the kettle on.
So, what are you doing today?
What's it to you?
I'd like to see you again.
Would you now?
Yes, I would.
Why?
I don't know. Because I like you, I suppose.
I see.
Look, why don't I take you to dinner? I mean, that's what people do, isn't it? People who like each other.
Yeah, they have dinner. And they get married and they have kids and then they buy a car and then they get a mortgage and they move into a semi-detached box on a housing estate in Hertfordshire. We'll sod that for a game of soldiers.
It's only a curry, Babsy.
I never said I liked you.
You said the meter wasn't running.
Oh, yes, I did.
You're not a morning person, are you? All right, look. It's the Mahalia on the Fulham Road. We'll say 8 o'clock. If you're there, you're there. I went back to my disgusting police flat in 9 Elms to get changed and have a shave. Yes?
Where the bloody hell have you been? I've been trying to get hold of you all night.
Oh, I was out. Why, what's happened?
Your mate Eric.
What about him?
He's dead.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So could you get over to the squat in Petworth Street? I'll meet you there.
I knew instantly what had happened. was obvious. Eric had done exactly what I told him not to do.
Oh, here he is, the man of the moment. Glad you found time to drop in on us.
He was slumped on a mattress in a corner of the room, gazing up at me. His throat had been cut from left to right, and there was a razor blade between his right thumb and index finger. Behind him on the wall there was a thick spray of blood where the artery had been severed.
Jesus. He made a right mess, didn't he? He took his own bleeding head off.
You think it's suicide?
What does it look like to you? His throat's cut, he's holding a razor blade.
Well, that's hardly conclusive, is it? Has the pathologist seen him?
Not yet.
Ugh. Odds on that is not the murder weapon. But someone told his mother.
Yeah, she's been spoken to.
Shit. Should have brought him in when I had the chance.
The mother says you went round to see her. She gave you his address.
Yeah. She wanted me to tell him that Staniland was dead.
Which you did?
Yes.
And you think Eric's involved in some way, so you come down hard on him?
Not that hard. I think he met Barbara Spark and Harvey Fenton in the Henry of Agincourt pub on Greenwich Lane, and the three of them conspired to screw money out of Staniland. Only they went too far.
Well, he told you this, did he?
Not in so many words. I put it to him. He didn't deny it.
That's going to stand up in court, isn't it?
Oh, no. Christ. Look, can we get out of here?
Yeah, come on. Pint. So where were you last night?
I met someone.
Ah, right. Yeah, good for you. About bloody time. Maybe you'll start behaving like a normal human being for a change.
Who knows?
So what do you think happened after you left him then?
Eric, I think his bottle went. I think he ran to Fenton and told him he'd had the law round.
And Fenton done him then?
Yeah.
Not Spark?
Pardon?
You said just Fenton. Why not Barbara Spark too?
Yeah, well, it could have been both of them, I suppose.
Right. I think he's trying to bring him in.
No. Not yet.
Why not?
What good would it do? They'd clam up. You bouncing them off the walls wouldn't help. They'd probably enjoy that.
Yeah, not as much as I would.
Look, let me do it my way. I'm close. I just need evidence. Enough to put these arseholes away for life.
I hope you know what you're doing, Sergeant.
Yeah. So do I.
I went and got myself tarted up for my date at the Mahalia. I listened to Staniland while I was shaving.
I'm here on my own. Barbara's been gone, God knows where, for 3 days and 3 nights. I can't stand it. Why can't I just finish it now, while the tape is running? But I can't. I can't let them win. It's for Barbara and the Laughing Cavalier to finish the job. I must get them to commit themselves to their own evil. And then perhaps my life would have added up to something.
I wondered if mine would too.
Hello?
You were right.
About what?
The murder weapon. It wasn't a razor blade. It was a knife of some kind. 15-centimetre blade, approximately.
Like a survival knife?
If you say so, I don't know what a survival knife is.
Yeah, doesn't matter. Anything else?
Isn't that enough?
Yeah. Thanks for letting me know.
What's wrong? I thought you'd be pleased to see me.
I am.
No, you're not. Something's happened.
Nah, it's just work, you know.
Oh. I think you'd better tell me some more about yourself, don't you? You're a proper man of mystery, you are.
There's no mystery.
I beg to differ. For example, you don't strike me as the sort of bloke who's really into the club scene.
Well, I'm not. I told you it was a one-off.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Someone told you about me.
Yeah. I remembered his name now. It's, Charlie something. Very well spoken. He liked to talk.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think I know who you mean.
So did you and him,
I suppose we must have done. You're not jealous, are you? I can't bear jealous men.
No, you won't have that problem with me.
I should hope not.
All right. Your turn.
What? That's not fair. You ain't told me anything.
Yes, I have. Now you have to tell me something.
Like what?
I don't know, something about yourself. Anything.
Okay. I've been to prison.
What for?
GBH. 2 years in Holloway.
Blimey.
Blimey, is that it? I was expecting a bit more of a reaction than that.
So, what did you do? That was he?
Someone called me a whore. Thing is, I don't much like being called a whore. So I waited until he was asleep, then I grabbed the bedside lamp. Did quite a lot of damage. Should have done more. So, you still want to go on seeing me?
Makes no odds to me. You are or you are.
I just don't like being called a whore, that's all.
Fair enough. I'll try and remember that.
You're funny. Look, you made me smile. Should we get the bill?
We went back to her place, only this time I knew my body wasn't going to perform for her. I could imagine Margot Stenneland's grief all too easily. I could see her son's lifeblood decorating the wall in that squalid room in Petworth Street. This scratching around for evidence had to end. I had to reach through the lies of those responsible, down into their throats and tear their hearts out. So, what is it you've got against mortgages and semis in Hertfordshire, anyway?
I don't know, it just makes me want to puke. I've always hated it. Kids, schools, mum down the shops, dad working for the council, regular meals, telly in the evening. What's the use of it? I mean, it takes your life away.
You were a kid once, weren't you?
Not really. I grew up in care. My mum couldn't cope. She was, all over the shop. I started taking my knickers down the minute I realised that's what the boys wanted. Some of the staff, too. When I worked out I could get them to pay for it, I never looked back. That's where me and Charlie...
Charlie from the Agincourt. Charlie I met. So you do know who he is, then?
All right, yeah. If you want to know, he had a crush on me. A schoolboy crush. He used to trail around after me. Look, let's not talk about him now.
Oh, no, I'm intrigued.
I said no, so drop it.
Well, you brought it up. Me and Charlie. You said you and Charlie.
Yeah, I mean, that's where we saw eye to eye. Family life, proper jobs, people up to their necks in debt, sweating at night about how they're going to pay it all off. It's crap. He used to say, look at them. All these people strolling around Battersea Park in their nice clothes as if they had all time before them. They're out of this place alive. These stupid people with their mortgages and their cars.
And their children.
Exactly. What's the point?
So what happened to him, Charlie?
What happened?
Yeah. In the pub, they said he died.
Did they? Yeah, I heard that too on the grapevine, like.
You don't know what happened?
No, but I believe it may have been alcohol.
I seem to have upset you.
There's some people in my past I'd rather forget, that's all. Can we stop talking about him now?
Let's drink to him. Here's to Charlie, late of this parish, a good man, who saw things as they are, who had no illusions.
I can drink to that.
Well, you say that, but it's funny when you think about it.
What is?
I mean, the way you don't like being called a whore, considering that you are one. Just before she balled her fist and hit me in the face, I noticed for some stupid reason that the clock on the wall behind her said 2 minutes past 12.
Jesus! I told you, didn't I? I warned you, what did I say? Don't bleed all over my sofa. Shift yourself.
Don't worry, I'm going.
You going?
Yes!
I knew it. Coward. First sign of violence. That's right, run away, you little man.
Not running, I'm walking.
Well, walk faster then.
You think you can behave how you like because you had a hard time growing up? Oh, how many had it worse than you and didn't end up in Holloway?
He's attractive when he's angry. You're going to hurt me. I wouldn't mind. I usually get paid, though. Go on, give it your best shot. On the house.
If that's how you get your rocks off, I'm sorry to disappoint you, love. I'm not interested.
Do I disgust you?
No, it's boredom more than disgust. You're just so predictable. You're so banal. So good night.
Well, be a good little fella and pour me a drink before you go. There's vodka in the fridge.
Pour it yourself.
If you're a gentleman, you pour it for me.
Right. There you go. It's poured.
She stared up at me. Her face was hard and triumphant, and I was suddenly sure she knows exactly who I am and why I'm here.
Well, isn't this nice?
Not really. See ya.
I wasn't going to leave. I had to see this thing through. What Stenland had started was left for me to finish.
We all instinctively try to make death less difficult for ourselves.
It was 1 a.m. There wasn't a soul on the streets outside Barbara's flats.
But no matter how logically you think, or how much you drink, it all ends the same way.
I stood in the shadows on the other side of the road and waited. I thought of Stenland.
And so the job is to accept it, to face it full on, to be courageous.
After a while, quite a long while, a transit drove into the estate and parked under Babs's tower block. Harvey Fenton got out and walked inside. I gave him 10 minutes. Then I went in after him. Fenton was sitting at the kitchen table. The survival knife was in front of him.
Is this what you've been looking for? Your face. His face.
Back already? Didn't take long, did it?
You've been following me, Harvey.
Why would I do that?
To see where I was going.
I don't care where you go. You can go where you like, mate. Recognise this, do you?
Yes.
What is it?
It's the knife I took off some kids the night I searched Stenland's flat. One of them tried to stab me with it.
Oh, how ironic. How ironic, Babsy. One of them tried to stab him with it.
I found it right there on the bed the day after we did Charlie in. There were no police around, so I thought it was safe to come up and clear out all his tapes and diaries, but when I got there I found some dosser had broken in and was skipping on his bed.
That was me.
I know that now. I recognised you the moment I saw you in the club. You know I did. You must do.
No.
Bloody hell, he's even dumber than he looks.
Why did you have to kill Eric?
I didn't have to. I just did.
Because?
He talked to you about us, didn't he? So obviously we couldn't take the risk of letting him live. He was a blabbermouth.
He had a mother who cared about him.
So? If she cared about him that much, why was he a junkie living in a squat?
He was a grown man. He made his own choices. Where are your bum chums tonight, Fenton? Left them at home, did you?
You're cheeky, aren't you? You're a cheeky chappie.
You must be feeling confident. You must be feeling absolutely certain that I came here alone.
Well, let's wait and see, shall we? I'm in no hurry. Are you in a hurry, Babs?
No.
So is this where you killed Stenland?
Yeah? Nah. We did him in a railway arch in Bermondsey.
I keep my van and tools there, so it was ideal, really. But what you got to understand about Charlie, he as good as asked for it. Didn't he, Babs? He wanted us to do him, didn't he, Babsy? He really did. In fact, you might as well say he paid us to do it, when it came to it.
No, that's what you made it come to. I've never seen a more thorough job. You enjoyed that one, didn't you?
We enjoy them all.
What, more than two, are there?
There will be in a minute.
Are we giving him long enough, do you reckon?
Yeah, come on, let's get it over with. It's late, I'm tired.
I don't think your mates are coming, mate. What do you think?
I'll leave you to guess.
Oh, come on. I've had enough of this faffing around. There's no one coming. Give me the knife.
You sure?
You did the last one. Give it to me.
When the knife struck me in the right centre of my throat, it didn't hurt at all at first. It just felt very odd, being able to see the handle sticking out under my chin. I made a gesture as though to pull it out with my hand, but only in a quasi-humorous sort of way. Then I suddenly felt weaker because of the shock, and I noticed that Fenton and Barbara Spark had a black undulating halo around them. I wanted to speak, but the knife was such a dreadful interruption in my throat that my hearing had turned into a dark roar like a train in the tunnel under Swiss Cottage. There was a whole lot of shadow coming up around the edges of my vision, and I wanted to tell someone that I knew everything now. As Stanland must have done in those moments before the hammer finished him off. As you must have done, Charlie. Did you? I'm you now, Charlie. Being enveloped in this darkness.
The same darkness?
Yes. And soon it will be too dark for us to see. Or to hear.
Or perhaps even to know.
And the peace of the darkness will become the same as light.
Yes. So that our last experience will become as mysterious and musical as our first.
Come, police! Put your hands in here!
Hello. How do you do? I'm Charles Staniland. I know. Really? Yes. I've seen pictures. Well, a picture. Okay. Well, it's really wonderful to meet you. It really is. Just wonderful. Yes, likewise. Who are you, by the way? Who am I? Yes. What's your name? You do have a name, don't you? Well, don't you?
He's awake. Nurse, he's awake. He's awake.
Okay, let me see. Good. That's good. Hello? Can you hear me? No, don't try to speak. You're in hospital, and you're quite poorly, but you're going to be okay. I'll leave you with your colleague for a minute. Not too long, please.
Don't worry, I'm not hanging around. You all right, then?
What happened?
Well, you didn't die. That's all you need to know at the moment. I had a man following you.
Why?
You didn't think I was going to let you just wander around on your own, did you?
Why not?
I would have thought that was obvious, you buck. It's not safe.
I wanted it.
You wanted to get stabbed in the throat? No, you didn't. Bloody drugs they're giving you in here. Listen, those bastards were just sitting there watching you bleed to death. Is that what you wanted? You'd be in a mortuary now if it weren't for my bloke. Not that I expect any gratitude, of course.
What happened to Fenton?
My bloke shot him.
Dead?
No, unfortunately. Fenton got a couple in his shoulder, one in his side, one in his arm. He'll be fit to stand trial. The woman, she got one in the back. She's paralysed from the neck down. She won't be working the clubs again, I'll tell you that for nothing. They're on the next floor if you want to pay them a visit.
All right, time to go, I'm afraid. We must let him rest.
But he's going to be all right, is he?
Oh, yes, he's going to be fine.
OK, I'll come back tomorrow. You want me to call your ex? Or anyone?
No.
Listen, when you get out of there, you come and work for me in serious crimes. You see what happens when you work on your own?
Sure.
See you tomorrow.
Oi. Thanks.
I lay back, thinking. Stunland would go to his grave avenged. Fenton would get life for the attempted murder of a police officer. And Barbara? Maybe she'd be spared jail, but what was that phrase the judges like to use? She'd have plenty of time to reflect on her crimes. Maybe something as Stanland would get through to her one day, as it had got through to me. He'd made me care about who I was, in a way I didn't know I could. I closed my eyes and heard his voice.
I wish I could find someone who would listen, instead of just a tape.
And then I fell asleep.
In He Died with His Eyes Open by Derek Raymond, the detective was played by Bern Gorman. Staniland was Toby Jones, Barbara, Tanya Franks, and Bowman was Ben Crow. Fenton was Jamie Foreman, the nurse, Prianga Burford, and the policeman, Sean Murray. He Died with His Eyes Open was dramatised by Nick Perry. The director was Sasha Yevtushenko.